Chapter 12:23. I will return this punch to you on behalf of little yellow feather. Did you hear that baby-like cry? It is really just a child. Unable to dispel his hatred, Xiaoqin punched 3 more times. Of the 8 half-step Emperor Wus, only 1 remained. Plop. The last half-step Emperor Wu was completely frightened out of his wits. He immediately knelt and begged, Blue Dragon King, on account that we are both humans, please spare my life. Some paths are chosen by oneself. From the moment you took out your butcher's knife, you should have been prepared to be slaughtered by others in the future. Just like me now, I have a cold and brave heart. As we are both humans, I will leave your corpse intact. Facing the half-step Emperor Wu kneeling before him, Xiaoqin remained unmoved. He gently tapped the half-step Emperor Wu's forehead with his finger. A strand of saber qi destroyed the half-step Emperor Wu's sea of consciousness before piercing through. When the half-step Emperor Wu fell, his life force severed. However, he was the only half-step Emperor Wu to have an intact corpse. In the sky, all sorts of mysterious phenomena caused by Xiaoqin condensing the heart of an emperor vanished like smoke the moment this half-step Emperor Wu fell. The morning glow appeared once again. The resplendent sunlight shone on the blood-stained body of Xiaoqin. This made him, who was as cold as a grim reaper, have a divine aura to him. Golden light shone resplendently, glistening brilliantly. The 8 half-step Emperor Wus were all dead. However, the hatred in Xiaoqian's heart did not dissipate. He was well aware that these were just pawns. In fact, they were not even pawns, they were just discarded pieces. They were just pawns abandoned by the Prime Emperor Wu. From the moment they were sent out, the Prime Emperors and the 3 Holy Masters hiding behind the scenes did not care about these people's lives. Xiaoqin swore to himself that one day, he would make all these people hiding behind the scenes pay the price they deserved. When the surrounding demon mixed blood cultivators saw the white-robed Xiaoqin, their hearts trembled for a long time. The old black iron monster, who could kill martial emperors, felt fear in his heart as he looked at Xiaoqin. Although these 8 half-step Emperor Wu had exhausted too much law energy and underestimated Xiaoqian's strength, Xiaoqin could kill 8 half-step Emperor Wu in one go. However, Xiaoqin could kill 8 half-step martial emperors in one go. No matter how one looked at it, the current Xiaoqin could be called one of the strongest existences under martial emperor. Even of the black iron old monster was not fully confident of defeating Xiaoqin. The black iron old monster, more than the black iron old Xiao of the black iron old monster, had not of Xiaoqin had condensed the black iron old black. Of black Chen's might of Chen of was of the emperor of his. After thinking for a while, the black iron old monster said with certainty, it is not a possibility but a certainty. Xiaoqin recovered his wits and moved quickly to Mu Xian's side. When he saw the unconscious Dugu Ao in her embrace, he asked, how is he? Is he not awake yet? Mu Xian squeezed out a smile and replied, he's fine. Ao Jiao fed him a sage pill. Right now, the loss of life force has stopped. However, if he does not wake up, there is nothing we can do. Xiaoqian's heart sank. He understood what she meant. Dugu Ao was still resisting the other half of the bloodline in his body. If the medicinal energy of the medicinal pill wore off, the situation would still be hard to predict. Dugu Ao's life and death would depend on a single thought. However, given Dugu Ao's stubbornness, without any external interference, the outcome would be as expected. What awaited him would still be death. What should I do? Although Xiaoqin had killed the 12 half-step Emperor Wu who caused all this, Dugu Ao still had not woken up. Even though Xiaoqin had condensed a heart of an emperor and advanced to consummation blue-robed emperor, his mood did not improve at all. The reason was none other than Dugu Ao helping him too much. If Dugu Ao died, Xiaoqin would feel guilty for life. In the end, Xiaoqian's horizons were limited. He could not think of any good ideas, so he could only look to Ao Jiao. Ao Jiao, do you have any ideas? Ao Jiao thought for a while and shook her head. I do not have any good ideas either. However, There are still many sage-grade medicinal pills in the Thunder King's inheritance. If you are willing to part with them, you can guarantee that he will not have any problems for 2 years. Naturally, Xiao Chen was willing to part with the medicinal pills. However, what about after 2 years? Whoosh! Just at this moment, a strong aura suddenly encased the entire desert island. A huge figure appeared in the sky, covering the entire island. When this figure looked around, everyone on the island felt like they were being watched, their hair standing on end. Dugu Kuang. It's Dugu Ao's father. He is here. What a coincidence. It looks like he has been here all along. However, it is not convenient for him to make a move on those half-step Emperor Wu. That is no wonder. No one understands better than these Emperor Wus how horrifying a prime's strength is. Furthermore, these half-step Emperor Wus gave Dugu Ao a chance to leave earlier. Dugu Kuang has no reason to make a move. However, I heard that Dugu Kuang has 10 odd sons. He has never been fond of Dugu Ao. This might have something to do with it. As the crowd discussed, Xiao Chen immediately learned the identity of the person who arrived. It was the demon-human martial emperor, Dugu Kuang, Dugu Ao's father. Many thanks for making a move. You did a good job. The Dugu clan owes you a favor. A deep voice resounded in the sky. The entire space shook intensely. A formless might pressed down on everyone on the island, making their hearts tremble. The huge figure stretched out its hand, and an irresistible force pulled Dugu Ao out of Mu Xian's embrace. Just as Dugu Kuang was about to leave, the figure looked at the stunned Mu Xian and said, "Not bad. You can be the daughter-in-law of my Dugu clan. Let's go together." The figure stretched out his hand and brought Mu Xian over as well. Dark clouds churned. Dugu Kuang did not discuss anything further. He only said that he owed Xiao Chen a favor before leaving with the two of them. After Dugu Kuang left, the suppressive atmosphere on the desert island faded from everyone's hearts. Dugu Ao being taken away by his father was probably the best outcome. The other party should have a way to wake Dugu Ao up. Xiao Chen thought, is this the strength of a martial emperor? Even a martial emperor as strong as Dugu Kuang is afraid of a prime. This is truly despairing. The people on the island slowly scattered. After this battle, the name of the Blue Dragon King, the white-robed bladesman, would definitely resound throughout the entire human-demon sea. Ao Jiao brought little yellow feather into the immortal spirit ring to recuperate. Xiao Chen leaned on the stone steel alone, looking at the endless desert devoid of people. He had a complicated expression, thinking about something. The lunar shadow saber stabbed into the ground at the side. Blood still flowed slowly on it. Under the sunlight, it exuded a sinister sense of beauty, lonely and proud. Logically speaking, Xiao Chen had already achieved his goal before leaving Heavenly Star Island. Not only had he advanced to consummation blue-robed emperor ahead of time, but he had also condensed the heart of an emperor that only Emperor Wu had. He only needed to wait 3 years to clear his great tribulation of wind and fire before he could ascend to martial emperor. However, would things really go that smoothly? Now, Xiao Chen only wanted to take a flower of life, and he already provoked the 3 primes and the 3 holy masters. If Xiao Chen really wanted to clear his great tribulation of wind and fire, he did not know what methods the other party would use. Qing Emperor. Qing Emperor, what kind of existence was he exactly? How tyrannical was he back then? Even after dying for 10,000 years, he still made people so wary of him. This made Xiao Chen's path to martial emperor so difficult. Xiao Chen shook his head and stopped thinking about it. He drew the lunar shadow saber and took out a piece of cloth to wipe off the blood on it. When the saber became clear and bright again, when the saber turned cold and bright again, a figure suddenly appeared before Xiao Chen. This person carried a sword on his back, and he always had a calm expression on his face. It was just like when Xiao Chen first saw him. Even after so many years, nothing had changed. Chu Chaoyun, this opponent destined to be entangled with Xiao Chen for life, appeared before Xiao Chen after everyone left. Huang Dang. Shao Chen sheathed the lunar shadow saber. Then, he held the saber and walked over to Chu Chaoyun, step by step. Why did you help me? The other party's mysterious appearance had helped Shao Chen deal a fatal blow back then. Even now, Shao Chen could not figure it out. In Shao Chen's memories, he did not know where to place Chu Chaoyun. It was definitely impossible to call Chu Chaoyun a friend, but it was also impossible to call him an enemy. If Shao Chen really had to describe this person who was both friend and foe, he could only use the word opponent. Chu Chaoyun smiled faintly and said, "It's nothing. Many years ago, I already said that our positions are different. However, our ultimate goal is the same. Right now, the story is far from over. How can I let you die? Even if I did not make a move, you would not have died." Shao Chen did not want to continue playing riddles with Chu Chaoyun. He had to resolve all the mysteries today. Now that Shao Chen had advanced to consummation blue-robed emperor and condensed a heart of an emperor, he was confident that he was stronger than Chu Chaoyun. If Chu Chaoyun was not willing to say more, then Shao Chen could only use force. "Tell me your true goal. Since the first time you attacked me in the Sky Dome realm until now, what exactly have you been planning for the past 10-odd years?" Shao Chen asked sullenly as he stepped forward with a sharp gaze. His strong aura pressed down on the other party. Shao Chen did not want to kill or injure the other party. He only wanted to know the other party's true goal. He did not want to remain in the dark. Shao Chen needed to put an end to all the past and future matters today. Chu Chaoyun was not surprised at Shao Chen's reaction. When Shao Chen's strong aura pressed over, Chu Chaoyun also released his own aura, pushing back Shao Chen's pressure. This pushed back the pressure coming from Shao Chen. The two's auras were equal, neither could do anything to the other. Black and white lights flickered on Chu Chaoyun's body. That was the will of light and the will of darkness merging, forming a brand new will of primal chaos. However, the merging of this will of primal chaos was not perfect. Otherwise, it would have been able to suppress Shao Chen's peak will of thunder. Chu Chaoyun showed some shock in his eyes. He had not expected that his strong will of primal chaos would not be able to suppress Shao Chen immediately. Chu Chaoyun said, "Not bad, peak will of thunder. It looks like you will be able to form an innate thunder crystal before advancing to martial emperor. An innate thunder crystal with a heart of an emperor. I wonder what kind of storm you will stir up when you advance to martial emperor one day." While Chu Chaoyun was shocked in his heart, so was Shao Chen. Shao Chen had already silently circulated the might of his heart of an emperor and added the peak will of thunder. However, he still did not gain a clear advantage in aura. What exactly did Chu Chaoyun experience in the past 10-odd years for him to improve so much? Chapter 12:24. Unfortunately, with your strength, you are still unable to force me to speak. Perhaps in your eyes, I am very mysterious. However, in my eyes, you are just as mysterious. Chu Chaoyun's words seemed to have another meaning. After a pause, he continued, "Actually, I want to know many of the things you want to know as well. It is just that we each chose different paths." Shao Chen knew that it was no longer possible to use force to force the other party to speak. So he said, "In that case, we can have an honest talk and tell each other what we know to clear up any misunderstandings." Chu Chaoyun shook his head and said, "There are no misunderstandings between us. As you think, there will definitely be a fight between us. As for having an honest talk, I can reveal one thing. In this world, who wants you to die the most is definitely me. Who wants you to advance to martial emperor the most? No one is more eager than me, Chu Chaoyun." Inspiration flashed in Shao Chen's mind as he thought of something. He said, "The Blue Dragon Palace, the Heavenly Flame's origin flame." Chu Chaoyun smiled and said, "So, don't die before you advance to martial emperor. Otherwise, no one will open the Blue Dragon Palace for me, and I will never be able to take away the Heavenly Flame's origin flame." So, that is the case. No wonder the other party came all the way to help me block the demonic world's attack after receiving the news. However, how can I explain that the other party wants me dead the most? Is it because of the identities we inherited? The descendants of the Qing Emperor and the Tianwu Emperor have to put an end to the grudges from 10,000 years ago? Or is it because a certain immortal Tao expert once mentioned that the entire Kunlun realm is an abandoned land? Right and wrong, there is no need to think too much about it. When you stand at the peak, you will discover that our goals are the same. The one who wants me dead the most will definitely be you. However, you will understand all this only after you stand at the peak. Work hard. Don't underestimate the outstanding talents of the Kunlun realm in the astral battlefield. Don't underestimate the king-grade geniuses of the deep abyss demonic world either. Among those of the same generation, you are still far from being unrivaled. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Chaoyun withdrew the black and white light into his body. All the light on his body disappeared as he turned around and left. When the light vanished, Shaochen focused his gaze. He noticed an inconspicuous symbol on Chu Chaoyun's chest. It was the Nether Church's insignia. Chu Chaoyun had joined the Nether sect. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. Was this the path that Chu Chaoyun had taken? For the sake of strength, he joined the Dark Church, which once destroyed the Tianwu dynasty. Xiao Chen wondered what he was thinking. Xiao Chen, do you think this Chu Chaoyun is a good person or a bad person? Ao Jiao voiced her doubts from the immortal spirit ring. Xiao Chen thought for a while before replying, how can there be pure good and bad people in this world? It is as he said. It is just that the paths he takes are different. He has his own doubts and troubles as well. In the end, he is just like most cultivators in this world. There is nothing special about him. Actually, sometimes, one was just too conflicted, making some simple things seem too complicated. When one finally found out the cause and effect, one would discover that it was just like that. In this meeting with Chu Chaoyun, they did not talk much. However, it resolved a knot in Xiao Chen's heart. This freed Xiao Chen from dwelling on the other party's secrets. There would come a day when the truth would come to light. There was no need to overthink it. As for the heavenly flame's origin flame, Xiao Chen did not care too much about it. Who knew how many people in the Blue Dragon Palace were watching it? When Xiao Chen advanced to Martial Emperor and went to open it, he would not be able to predict how many Emperor Wu's experts would be there. If Chu Chaoyun was willing to appear, he would stir up this mess even more. This suited Xiao Chen's intentions, which would reduce the attention on him. The deity race Emperor Forsaken's true body descended on a desolate planet in the starry heavens. Soon, two figures descended at the same time on this unremarkable planet in the starry heavens. These two were the ghost race's Dongyue Ghost Emperor and the corpse race's heaven-punishing corpse god. Soon, another three masked people landed on the planet. Actually, the identities of these three masked people were no secret. They were the three holy lords of the human race's three holy masters. When the three of them worked together, they could hold their own against a prime. This gave them the capital to speak to the other three on equal footing, not putting them at a disadvantage. The luck of the Qing Emperor's descendants is really horrifying. The Thunder King did not even make a move, but he still managed to break this trap, the heaven-punishing corpse god said. There were too many variables. Who could have thought that an unremarkable character like Dugu Ao would suddenly erupt? Who could have thought that even the people sent by the demon monarchs would be stopped? The Dongyue Ghost Emperor's tone contained some self-mockery. Emperor Forsaken said, however, it is still fine. He condensed the heart of an emperor. I wonder what level of great tribulation of wind and fire he will trigger. It is practically impossible for him to make preparations and clear this great tribulation of wind and fire in 3 years. As long as the Thunder King does not die, anything is possible. The masked phoenix's Passion Palace's palace master suddenly said. His words immediately caused the other supreme martial artists to sink into silence. The Thunder King was an unsurmountable hurdle in the hearts of these primes. If not for the Thunder King's existence, these primes would not have to be so fearful. With a thought, they could kill Xiao Chen. How much longer can the Thunder King last? Don't you know that the three holy masters only have one place left? Emperor Forsaken asked. At least 1 year, at most 10 years. The Thunder King will definitely die, the Phoenix's Passion Palace's palace master said. A light flashed in Emperor Forsaken's eyes. 10 years is still too long. I'll try to get the support of those three from the heavenly starry ocean. The great tribulation of wind and fire is when his luck is at its lowest. It is also the best time to make a move. I'll do my best not to give him any chances. That will be difficult. Although the Lunar Palace's palace master does not like the descendants of the Qing Emperor, she is old friends with the Thunder King. The Myriad Law Fiend Master and the Fox King are old friends. These two will definitely choose to remain neutral. The only one we can truly fight for is the Zodiac Hall's palace master. That is already pretty good. As long as we can fight for one person, we can break the balance between our strength and theirs. If outsiders were here, they would never imagine that the people at the peak of the Kunlun realm would gather together to discuss countermeasures for a consummation blue-robed emperor. This conversation did not last for long. After about 7 minutes, the primes left one after another. The desolate planet was silent as if no one had ever been here before. At this moment, Xiaoqin did not know that someone had already started to plan for his great tribulation of wind and fire. Currently, Xiaoqin was on his way to Heavenly Star Island, anxiously familiarizing himself with the many wondrous uses of the heart of an emperor. No wonder people always said that after one became Emperor Wu, they would bring earth-shaking changes to cultivators. Now, Xiaoqin finally knew some of the reasons in advance. Xiaoqin opened a crack in the mysterious world of Emperor Wu, broadening his horizons. Inside the Flood Dragon War Chariot, Xiaoqin sat cross-legged with his hands crossed. There was a clump of light about the size of half a finger in his dantian. It looked like a resplendent crystal gem. That was the heart of an emperor. Strands of purple energy surrounded the heart of an emperor. There was a vast number of them, like many small dragons swimming around quickly. That was Xiaoqian's vast heavenly laws. There were more than 20,000 of them, enough to look down on all existences under Emperor Wu. With a thought from Xiaoqin, the heart of an emperor spun quickly. It was like a mysterious door of time and space opened above his head. As the heart of an emperor drew in, an incredible energy entered Xiaoqian's body from the world outside the door. Xiaoqin sank into a wondrous state. This was a kind of energy that Xiaoqin had never experienced before. It was not veritable essence energy or the power of the world driven by laws. This power was even purer and more powerful, as if it came from another world. At first, Xiaoqin did not know what this energy was. He only understood after Ao Jiao explained it to him. No one in the Kunlun realm knew the source of the mysterious energy in the world behind the door. Only Emperor Wu, who had condensed the heart of an emperor, could come into contact with this energy. This energy was called primordial energy by the Kunlun realm's Emperor Wu. According to the legends of the immortal epoch, before the world was created, the world was a clump of primordial energy. The Kunlun realm's Emperor Wu all revered the mysterious energy in the world behind the door. Although they did not know if it was primordial energy or not, they still gave it this name. As for whether it was primordial energy or not, perhaps only those powerhouses of the immortal epoch would be able to confirm it after they came back to life. The heart of an emperor greedily absorbed the primordial energy. The strands of primordial energy turned into pure white energy that entered the acupoints on Xiaoqian's head and quickly sank before pouring into the heart of an emperor. Instantly, Xiaoqian felt his entire body fill with explosive energy. He felt omnipotent, and his strength instantly increased by 10%. Now, he somewhat understood why those below Emperor Wu could not come into contact with this energy. Aside from the heart of an emperor, a cultivator's dantian would not be able to endure or contain primordial energy. The instant one came into contact with it, their body would explode and they would die, playing themselves to death. After barely absorbing 10 strands of primordial energy, the mysterious door of time and space above Xiaoqian's head closed. After withdrawing from this strange state, Xiaoqian felt disappointed. That omnipotent feeling no longer existed. It was like falling from the clouds and crashing to the ground, returning to reality. However, Xiaoqian did not find this strange. Ao Jiao had said that Emperor Wu could open that door for a limited time. The amount of primordial energy that he could absorb from it was even less. Xiao Chen was already pretty good for being able to absorb 10 strands of primordial energy on his first try. Xiao Chen sank his consciousness into the interior of the heart of an emperor. He saw 10 white strands intertwining with each other, forming a huge whirlpool. Around the whirlpool was something like the starry heavens of the universe. As the whirlpool spun, all sorts of strong mysterious phenomena, thunder, lightning, storms, appeared in the void space of the heart of an emperor. As Xiao Chen carefully probed, he could clearly feel the 10 strands of primordial energy. Just one strand of primordial energy could cause damage equivalent to thousands of heavenly laws. Chapter 12:25. Then, Xiao Chen withdrew his consciousness and sent his original law energy into the heart of an emperor. The 10 strands of primordial energy were like newborn babies with a lot of room for growth. Their food was the heavenly law energy. The more they fed, the more they would grow. Using heavenly laws to cultivate primordial energy was something that could only be done after advancing to martial emperor. However, Xiao Chen had already condensed a heart of an emperor and could do it in advance. This was a complete anomaly. No one could say for sure what kind of changes this anomaly would produce in the end. Xiao Chen focused all his attention on the cultivation of primordial energy. The heart of an emperor opened a door to his world. The changes it brought him were not as simple as just advancing to consummation blue-robed emperor. Time passed day by day. Half a month later, Xiao Chen opened his eyes again. A brilliant light flickered in his eyes, and his entire being seemed to glow with vigor. There was an indescribable change in him. After walking out of the war chariot, Xiao Chen wanted to look down. As he looked at the archipelago below, he muttered to himself, "Time passed really fast. It turns out that I'm already at the Dragon Grave Sea." After leaving the Human Demon Sea, Xiao Chen immediately rushed to Heavenly Star Island. After being away for almost a year, he was filled with curiosity and anticipation about what had happened to Heavenly Star Island. Furthermore, he wanted to tell Mo Chen and the others about the good news of him advancing to consummation blue-robed emperor so that they would not worry too much. The last time Xiao Chen closed his eyes, he was still in the Human Demon Sea. When he opened them again, he was already at the Dragon Grave Sea. This made Xiao Chen feel somewhat rueful. Since I'm already here, I should go down and rest. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen decided to stay in the Dragon Grave Sea for one day and rest before setting off again. After putting away the Flood Dragon War Chariot, Xiao Chen looked at an island and quickly descended. After a while, they landed in the largest city of the island. In Xiao Chen's memory, this seemed to be the second largest island in the Dragon Grave Sea, second only to Treasure Dragon Island. Just like what he had seen in the past, the city was still in a dilapidated state. Both inside and outside the city, it was chaotic, without any order. When Xiao Chen came to this place again, his mood was completely different. When he first came, he had been anxious to find the flower of life and the death fruit. When he returned, Xiao Chen had already successfully condensed the heart of an emperor and advanced to the great perfection blue-robed emperor. He could now kill the half-step Emperor Wu. Let's go take a look. It is said that a huge battle has broken out in the southern part of the city. A merchant association wanted to set up a branch here. In the end, they accidentally set up their branch in the territory of the Heavenly Yuan Merchant Association. Now, it is said that a fight has broken out. Interesting. Which merchant association is this blind? The Heavenly Essence Merchant Association is one of the 4 strongest merchant associations in the entire Dragon Grave Sea. To think that they actually opened a branch in their territory. Aren't they just seeking death? I heard that the new merchant association is not weak. Furthermore, they are very popular in the Dark Sea. Even the Flame Rock Sovereign has to give them face. So what if they are not weak? Every branch of the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association in the Dragon Grave Sea is overseen by a half-step Emperor Wu. They have been here for several hundred years already. I heard that there is even a peak expert on the same level as Emperor Wu on Treasure Dragon Island. The moment Xiaochen entered the city, he saw the cultivators beside him rushing to the southern part of the city. When he heard that this new merchant association had the Flame Rock Sovereign backing it in the Dark Sea, Xiaochen raised his eyebrows. He thought to himself, could it be my own Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce? The Dragon Grave Sea was filled with dragon graves and all sorts of remnants. Every year, it would produce a large number of natural treasures and ancient divine items. Given Kim Taeho's character, he would definitely not give up on this place. With the support of the Flame Rock Sovereign, the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce had already gained a firm foothold in the Dark Sea. It made perfect sense for them to cross the Dark Sea and extend their trade route to the Dragon Grave Sea. Furthermore, after Xiaochen subdued the Su clan in the Human Demon Sea, he had already sent a letter to Heavenly Star Island to send people over to receive them. Only the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce could come over quickly. The more Xiaochen thought about it, the more likely it seemed. His figure flashed, and he immediately rushed to the southern part of the city. If it was really the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce, Xiaochen could not just sit back and watch. The Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce played a very important role in the Dragon's Gate's revival. After a few breaths, Xiaochen arrived at the southern part of the city. Then, he stood on the roof of a tall building. When he saw a familiar figure, he knew that his guess was right. There was no need for any other proof. It was indeed Xiaochen's Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce. Someone had smashed the signboard of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce, and the other party had surrounded the person in charge. Among the crowd, Kim Tae-ho looked at a blue-clad, middle-aged man with a baleful expression. That was the person in charge of the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's branch on this island. This person was of medium build, and he exuded the shrewdness and calculation of a merchant. However, his eyes contained a trace of tyranny and hostility that ordinary merchants did not have. In this Dragon Grave Sea, where no major factions occupied a place, the four great merchant associations were the kings. Regular cultivators did not dare to offend them. As one of the four great merchant associations, the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's branch managers all had this tyrannical and kingly aura. They were already used to doing as they pleased in the Dragon Grave Sea. Kim Tae-ho waved his hand to suppress the angry cultivators with him. Then, he looked at the blue-clad man and said, "Friend, I am new here and did not know that the entire southern part of the city is the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's territory. It is my fault. If you had explained things properly, I would have definitely apologized and left immediately. However, isn't smashing someone's signboard a little too tyrannical?" When the blue-clad man heard this, he laughed loudly. Then, he looked at Kim Tae-ho's swollen figure and showed some disdain in his eyes. "So what if I smashed your signboard? Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the Dragon Grave Sea just because you are doing well in the Sea of Darkness. Let me tell you, now that you are in the Dragon Grave Sea, you better tuck your tail between your legs and behave yourself. Continue smashing. Paw. Paw. Paw." The Heavenly Cloud Merchant Association's cultivators continued to step on the signboard that had already been smashed in half. Rage burned in Kim Tae-ho's eyes. As he looked at the tattered signboard, he felt like he was being kicked in the heart. However, Kim Tae-ho still suppressed his rage and spread his arms out, not letting the cultivators behind him attack rashly. If Xiaochen made a move now, it would only give the other party an excuse to use force. At that time, he would still be the one suffering. How boring. I thought that the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce was very powerful. It turns out that it is only a so-so. Indeed, it is not interesting. It is just a one-sided humiliation. There is nothing to see. The Heavenly Essence Merchant Association has been flaunting their might for a long time. I thought that they would run into a tough opponent. When the cultivators who heard the news saw this scene, they all shook their heads slightly, finding it boring. Scram. The Dragon Grave Sea does not welcome you. Don't let me see your signboard. Otherwise, I will smash it every time I see it. The blue-clad man shouted in disdain as he looked at Kim Tae-ho and smashed the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce's signboard into smithereens. Kim Tae-ho waved his hand and said, "Pick up the signboard. Let's go." The group of people remained silent. Together with Kim Tae-ho, they stepped forward and bent over. Then, they carefully picked up the shattered signboard. Xiao-chen felt somewhat sad. However, he felt even more gratified. Sometimes, one could bend over, but one had to pick up one's dignity. Compared to the scheming Xiao-chen of the Sky Dome realm, the current Kim Tae-ho was much more mature. Xiao-chen's figure flashed, looking like he teleported. Then, he silently landed among Kim Tae-ho's group and joined the ranks of the group picking up the shattered signboard. Kim Tae-ho looked up and happened to meet Xiao-chen's gaze, who had picked up a piece of the signboard. Both of them were completely stunned. Xiao-chen smiled faintly and said, "What are you standing there for? Quickly pick it up. After you are done, let's have a drink together." Kim Tae-ho laughed loudly. Without saying anything, he picked up the speed of picking up the shattered signboard. Clearly, he was in a good mood. Upon seeing such a scene, everyone was stunned. Was this fatso crazy? Someone smashed his signboard, yet he was still so happy, able to laugh. Where did this fellow come from? Who allowed you to pick up these things? When the blue-clad man saw the sudden appearance of Xiao-chen and the laughing fatso, he felt like he was being ignored. It was just one kick. The wind howled as it kicked at Xiao-chen. Xiao-chen acted like he did not see the blue-clad man's kick, continuing to pick up the shattered signboard. Bang! The blue-clad man kicked heavily with great force. However, Xiao-chen did not get knocked back as expected. Amid a loud sound, it was like the blue-clad man's kick had landed on a vast mountain range. A huge rebound knocked him back. The blue-clad man cried out in pain and vomited a mouthful of blood. The impact knocked him back. After he landed, he could not get up again. Blood flowed out of the blue-clad man's mouth continuously as he coughed endlessly. His complexion paled, and he showed a horrified expression. When he checked with his consciousness, he was horrified to discover that his internal organs were all shattered. No wonder blood kept flowing out of the blue-clad man's mouth. His heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys were all shattered. Even if a celestial being came, he would not be able to save him. How could this be? The blue-clad man was a blue-robed emperor. In this dragon-grave sea, he could barely be considered an expert. While this kick might not have sent the blue-clad man flying, it should not have killed him. Oh no! He is going to die. The experts of the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association supported the blue-clad man and checked. They all showed horrified expressions, unable to react at all. Why were all sorts of strange things happening in this day and age? Manager Lon kicked himself to death. When the many surrounding cultivators saw this scene, they all felt their hair stand on end. This was simply too strange. Let's go. We ran into an expert. We have to ask Elder Feng to come out. The cultivators of the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association carried the blue-clad man's corpse and looked at Xiao-chen, who was still picking up the shattered signboard. Their expressions were strange as they hurried to the back. The group of people from the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce were stunned as well. When they saw this white-clad youth who suddenly appeared, they could not understand what was going on. The entire southern part of the city fell silent. The surrounding cultivators could not say anything either. What he saw today was completely beyond his understanding. How could someone kick himself to death with a single kick? Go. Did I say that you can go? Xiao-chen suddenly stood up and stretched out his hand. The shattered signboard in everyone's hands flew into his hand. Then, he waved his hand, and a brand new signboard materialized. Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce. These 4 words gave off a faint glow. They glistened with a golden light, looking dazzling and dazzling. To Xiao-chen, who was proficient in the life bestowal spell, this little trick was nothing. Chapter 12:26. With a twist of his hand, the signboard in Xiao-chen's palm spun rapidly. Then, he sent it flying forward. Bang! 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 Xiao Qin had secretly infused a strand of primordial energy into the signboard. Now, the ordinary signboard immediately turned into a great killing weapon. Before these blue-robed emperor experts could react, their calves were crushed. They cried out in pain and knelt on the ground. It was clear that not all the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association experts were kneeling on the ground. The ones kneeling on the ground were the cultivators who had trampled on the signboard earlier. When the remaining people saw this scene, they did not dare to act rashly. Whoosh! Whoosh! After spinning a few times, the signboard returned to Xiao Chen's hand. With a huang dang sound, he placed the signboard on the ground. Xiao Chen opened his mouth and sucked in the strand of primordial energy that he had yet to use. Then, he said softly, "Scram." These were clearly two simple words. However, when Xiao Chen spoke, the sky changed color. A surging and strong energy surged out, sounding like thunder. As lightning flashed and thunder roared, the remaining cultivators of the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association were blown into the air by these two words. In the next moment, they were blown to an unknown location, their figures nowhere to be seen. The many cultivators who had criticized the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce earlier were all stunned. They did not know where this ruthless person came from. Without doing anything, he killed the blue-clad man. Then, when he opened his mouth, he knocked away a group of cultivators hired by the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association. This was simply incredible, flabbergasting. The strength of primordial energy astonished Xiao Chen as well. He had not expected just one strand of primordial energy to deal with this group of people so easily. After handing the signboard back to Kim Tae-ho, Xiao Chen glanced at the kneeling Heavenly Essence Merchant Association cultivators and said indifferently, "Since you dare to trample on the signboard of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce, don't blame me for being tyrannical. Kneel here for one day. Those who humiliated others would be humiliated by others." The many cultivators who came to watch the show finally understood why Kim Tae-ho could smile. It was all because of the white-robed man. Smashing someone's signboard was the greatest humiliation, so he would use an even greater humiliation and a more domineering method to return the favor. He seemed to be very quiet, but the methods of this white-clothed man shocked everyone. If news of the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce's hired thugs kneeling here for a month were to spread, the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce's reputation would be completely tarnished. "You want us to kneel here for a month? No way." The 5 members of the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce kneeling on the ground roared angrily when they heard this. They took a deep breath and tried to use their heavenly laws to drive the power of the world and fly away. However, to their horror, they discovered that Xiao Chen wasn't using any sort of power. Even when they used their demi-immortal laws, they couldn't shake Xiao Chen's restrictive spells. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. Primordial energy was a purer and stronger energy than the power of the world. It was something that only Emperor Wu could use. The strongest among these people was only a great perfection blue-robed emperor. Trying to shake primordial energy was like a baby trying to move a mountain. "I said kneel for a month, so kneel for a month. No one will be able to make you stand up." Xiao Chen stepped forward and sent out another palm strike on each of the 5's shoulders. Then, he used another strand of primordial energy to completely restrict the 5. Without a month's time, that strand of primordial energy would not scatter. It would be impossible for this group of people to stand up. As long as they were not an expert on the level of the old black iron monster, it would be impossible for anyone to remove the restriction. If someone tried to do it forcefully, the scattered strand of primordial energy would gather into a torrent and teach that person a huge lesson. "Debao, hang up the signboard." Xiao Chen turned his head and instructed, "I want to see who else dares to smash the signboard of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce." Who was the signboard of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce? It was Xiao Chen's signboard. If these people dared to smash his signboard, it would be equivalent to slapping him in the face. Although Xiao Chen did not show any anger on the surface, he was already furious in his heart. "If others do not offend me, I will not offend them. If others offend me, I will return the favor tenfold." The Blue Dragon King. He must be the Blue Dragon King. So, he is the Blue Dragon King, our big boss behind the scenes. He is indeed tyrannical. When the group of cultivators from the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce looked at Xiao Qin again, how could they not guess his identity? All of them had smiles of admiration on their faces. They had long heard of the legend of their master. It would take 3 days and 3 nights to recount all of them. Now that they saw him in person, they knew that the rumors were true. The youngest conferred king in the history of Bushan Palace was indeed tyrannical and boundlessly elegant. Kim Tae-ho chuckled and said a few words to his subordinates. Then, he pulled Xiao Qin up the stairs. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "Sorry, I did not expect to embarrass myself in front of you." Xiao Qin waved his hand and said, "There's no need. I should be the one apologizing to you. I really did not know that opening a new branch would be so difficult and full of twists and turns. It was really not easy for you to grow the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce to its current scale." The two chatted as they walked. When they arrived at a table on the second floor, Kim Tae-ho smiled and said, "The current Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce is really nothing much. Our accumulations are still too little. In the end, our accumulations cannot compare to those large merchant associations that have been around for hundreds or even thousands of years." Xiao Qin nodded and said, "There is no need to rush. Accumulations can only be built up over time." Kim Tae-ho recalled something and said, "That's right, I received your letter. Unexpectedly, you managed to obtain a conferred land in the Human Demon Sea without anyone noticing. This way, I will be able to establish a smooth sea trade route through the heavenly starry oceans Dark Sea, Dragon Grave Sea, and Human Demon Sea. There is only one merchant association in the entire oceanic world that can have such a long trade route. In less than 10 years, I guarantee that the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce will become one of the 4 great merchant associations of the entire oceanic world." Xiao Qin smiled faintly. He had never doubted Kim Tae-ho's ability. Who is so bold as to dare to kill the manager of my Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's branch? Are they tired of living? As the two chatted and drank, a thunderous voice suddenly came from outside the building. The strong aura of a half-step Emperor Wu surged over. The entire shop shook intensely, making it hard for people to stand stably. Xiao Qin raised his eyebrows and drained the wine in his cup. Then, he smiled faintly and said, "Finally, someone who is slightly more presentable." Dang! The wine cup landed heavily on the table. In that instant, the shaking shop suddenly quietened down. Inside the shop, Kim Tae-ho's expression changed slightly. "Xiao Qin, the one who came seems to be a half-step Emperor Wu." Xiao Qin nodded and smiled calmly. "I know. However, I really do not care about a regular half-step Emperor Wu." As Kim Tae-ho watched Xiao Qin leap down the pavilion, he was slightly stunned. He could not understand how Xiao Qin had improved so quickly after leaving for close to a year. Outside the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce, the surrounding cultivators all scattered. The reason was obvious. Everyone knew that the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's branch in the city had a half-step Emperor Wu overseeing it. The cultivators of the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's branch were restrained and forced to kneel on the street. With such a big matter happening, the half-step Emperor Wu would definitely make a move. If the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association could not get back at Xiao Qin, its reputation would plummet. It might even fall out of the ranks of the Dragon Grave Sea's 4 great merchant associations. For a long time, the martial Heavenly Merchant Association had always been the one showing off and acting tyrannically. Now that they had run into a tough opponent and had a good show to watch, these people were naturally unwilling to leave. "Elder Feng, save us." When the 5 Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's blue-robed emperor kneeling on the street saw Elder Feng, they immediately cried out for help. They had already been restrained here by Xiao Qin for an hour. The gazes directed at them from all directions made them feel so sullen that they wanted to die. However, the crux of the matter was that it was difficult for them to even move. Wanting to die was an extravagant hope. How humiliating would it be for the blue-robed emperor to kneel on the street for a month? Those who humiliated others would be humiliated by others. When these people trampled on the dignity of a merchant association in front of all the cultivators in the city, they should have been prepared to be humiliated as well. They could not blame others for the evil they brought upon themselves. When Elder Feng, the half-step Emperor Wu, saw the 5 people kneeling on the ground, he immediately rushed over. When he saw the people watching them make a fool of themselves, he felt his face burn. Elder Feng cursed angrily, "Bunch of trash. You can't even stand up. You have utterly embarrassed the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association. Elder Feng, we are willing to accept any punishment. Please let us stand up first." The 5 kneeling cultivators felt sullen in their hearts. However, they did not dare to refute. Xiao Qin drifted down. When he saw Elder Feng's strength, he felt confident. He crossed his arms and watched coldly as the other party made a move. His lips curled up in an indistinct smile. Why is that white-clad youth so calm? He is not even afraid of the half-step Emperor Wu. That is too exaggerated. I heard that he is a descendant of the Qing Emperor back then. He is the center of our oceanic world, the outstanding talent of the heavenly starry ocean's younger generation. However, he defeated him in one move at the Four Seas Hero Gathering. Even if he is a descendant of the Qing Emperor and his strength has improved greatly, he should still be cautious when facing the half-step Emperor Wu. Right now, he does not care at all. Outside the human demon paradise, the news of Xiao Qin killing 12 half-step martial emperors in a row had not spread. As for the cultivators near the Dragon Grave Sea, they had not heard about it yet. The cultivators near the Dragon Grave Sea all had their doubts about whether Xiao Qin could defeat the half-step Emperor Wu. When they saw Xiao Qian's current actions, they felt even more confused. The Heavenly Essence Merchant Association's Elder Feng glanced at the calm Xiao Qian and said coldly, "After I break your restriction, I will deal with you." No one in the Dragon Grave Sea has ever offended the Heavenly Essence Merchant Association and ended up with a good result. Xiao Qian retorted, "No one has ever smashed the reputation of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce and ended up with a good result. The person in front of you is the best example. If I say I want them to kneel, they will kneel. You alone are not enough to make them stand up." How arrogant! This old man is a half-step Emperor Wu. Do you think I cannot break your restriction? Don't you think too highly of yourself? You're really unscrupulous when you talk. Seeing Xiao Qin so arrogant, Elder Feng did not get angry. Instead, he laughed, finding this somewhat interesting. "White-robed brat, don't be arrogant. Elder Feng is a half-step Emperor Wu. Do you think he cannot break your restriction?" Chapter 12:27. When I stand up, I will deal with you all together. You will not have a good ending after offending our Heavenly Essence Merchant Association. Elder Feng, break the restriction and show this brat how powerful we are. When the 5 kneeling Heavenly Essence Merchant Association blue-robed Emperor experts saw Elder Feng rush over, they felt very confident. They no longer showed any fear when facing Xiao Qin. Elder Feng smiled coldly. Then, he raised his hand and threw a palm strike as he roared, "Break for me." Elder Feng purposely kept an eye out and did not underestimate Xiao Qin. Although the force of this palm strike was split into 5 portions, he had already used 70% of his law energy. In Elder Feng's opinion, using 70% of his strength against a consummation blue-robed emperor's restriction was already giving Xiao Qin face. Elder Feng did not even need to use half of his strength to kill a regular consummation blue-robed emperor. His imagination was beautiful, but reality was cruel. The power of the world that Elder Feng drove caused the entire southern part of the city to tremble. Without the protection of the formation, countless houses swayed and fell down in batches. The winds and clouds in the sky changed. Thick layers of clouds churned continuously. The force of the palm strike split into 5 portions. Each portion carried enough force to destroy a mountain range as it flew over. However, the restriction on the 5 did not budge at all. These 5 vast streams of power of the world did not have any effect at all. The primordial energy that Xiao Qin left on the 5 did not loosen at all when faced with the surging power of the world. Instead, The two forces pressed against each other, making the 5 kneeling people feel even more uncomfortable. Blood leaked out of their mouths as they cried out in pain. Elder Feng, what's going on? Why can't the restriction be broken? I feel like the invisible mountain pressing down on me is even heavier. Elder Feng, don't do it. Just a moment ago, the 5 were extremely ferocious, shouting for Xiao Chen to kneel and beg for mercy. However, in the next moment, they could no longer endure it, wailing in pain. Such a scene shocked all the onlookers. Even the half-step Emperor Wu couldn't make these 5 people stand up. Xiao Chen's methods were a bit too overbearing. Was he really going to make these 5 blue-robed emperors kneel for a month? Thinking about it, it was really cruel. No blue-robed emperor would be able to endure such humiliation. It would probably leave an indelible shadow in his heart for the rest of his life. Damn it! How could this be? Elder Feng was taken aback. He had not expected such an outcome. Earlier, he had said that he would be able to break the restriction in a matter of minutes. However, even after using 70% of the power of the laws, he still had not succeeded. All of a sudden, his face was as humiliated as the 5 people kneeling before him. I don't believe it. Elder Feng's face darkened and he was thoroughly enraged. He unleashed his full strength without holding anything back, planning to use the most violent method to break this strange seal. Elder Feng completely ignored the 5 people kneeling on the ground and howling in pain. He threw a palm strike, and cracks appeared in space. The ground exploded. Elder Feng used his full strength, creating a horrifying mysterious phenomenon that crashed into the restrictions of the 5 people. It had to be said that this force was indeed horrifying. The restrictions on the 5 people all lost their balance. The primordial energy that Xiao Chen left behind could no longer form a complete restriction, and it started to crumble slowly. Elder Feng revealed a smile on his face. Insignificant tricks. How can they stump me? Pu Ci. Right after Elder Feng spoke, the 5 people kneeling on the ground all vomited a mouthful of blood. Then, their bones shattered. They could no longer endure the pincer attack of the 2 forces and died on the spot. The primordial energy that Elder Feng left on the 5 no longer remained in the form of a restriction. It surged out with a whoosh and merged together, forming a complete strand of primordial energy. This strand of energy turned into a purple saber light. With a flickering speed, it flew towards the startled Elder Feng, whose smile froze. Primordial energy. This is something that only Emperor Wu can execute. How can it be? Before Elder Feng could finish speaking, the strand of primordial energy that Xiao Chen left behind turned into a saber light and pierced through the armor on Elder Feng's chest, piercing through his chest. It left a huge, bloody hole in Elder Feng's chest. It was a tragic sight. Elder Feng's law energy could not form an effective defense against an energy of a higher grade. From start to end, Xiao Chen, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, not even moving his feet, suddenly shouted, "You, kneel down as well." When he made a move, it would be a fatal one. The instant Elder Feng was severely injured, Xiao Chen executed a lightning-fast move. He instantly drove the remaining 9 strands of primordial energy in his heart of an emperor. When Xiao Chen smashed down with his palm, space seemed to move. When it landed on Elder Feng's shoulder, plop. This half-step Emperor Wu was forced to kneel by Xiao Chen's palm strike. The instant Elder Feng's knee hit the ground, there was a crisp sound. A horrifying energy radiated from his knee. Apart from the shops of the Azure Dragon Merchant Association, all of the buildings and houses within a radius of 10 miles were instantly annihilated. As for the cultivators who had soared into the air to avoid the energy radiation, they stared with wide eyes, not daring to believe the scene before them. The half-step Emperor Wu, who had been clamoring about killing the white-robed bladesman, was actually forced to his knees by Xiao Chen with one palm strike. When Elder Feng arrived, he was brimming with killing qi and spoke arrogantly. Now, he knelt on the ground, his face filled with horror. Xiao Chen placed his hand on Elder Feng's shoulder and pressed down hard. No matter how hard Elder Feng tried, he could not move at all. "Stop struggling. If you keep struggling, it will not be as simple as being humiliated. Xiao Qin said expressionlessly with a cold expression. Elder Feng was shocked in his heart. Before he could recover his wits, Xiao Qin, a consummation blue-robed emperor, actually used primordial energy. This was a power that only Emperor Wu could use. This was simply too shocking. The people watching the excitement might find it unbelievable. Xiao Qin was ridiculously strong. However, they did not know why Xiao Qin was so strong. However, Elder Feng knew that this was primordial energy, a power that came from beyond time and space. The people in Emperor Wu's circle called him primordial energy. If one did not come into contact with Emperor Wu, it would be hard to understand him. Now that Xiao Qin asked this question, Elder Feng recovered his wits and felt somewhat terrified. He stopped struggling. Xiao Qin said indifferently, "Let me ask you something first. Were you the one who ordered him to smash my Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce's signboard?" That blue-clad man was merely the manager of this branch on the surface. The true mastermind was this Elder Feng. Without Elder Feng's approval, that blue-clad man would not have done something like smashing someone's signboard, something that was akin to slapping someone in the face. Even if the blue-clad man occupied the wrong place, he could just teach him a lesson and chase him away. There was no need to go to such extremes as smashing someone's signboard. Elder Feng's eyes flickered. However, under Xiao Chen's strong pressure, he still answered honestly, "I was the one who told him to do so. The Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce has been on a decline recently. I just wanted to find something to establish my might. I did not expect the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce to be so strong." Xiao Qin thought for a while. He had not expected such a simple reason to trample on the dignity of the Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce's people. If Xiao Qin had not rushed over by coincidence, Kim Taeho's group might have suffered some more humiliation. "You are rather direct, not beating around the bush. I will not make things difficult for you. Just kneel in front of this Chamber of Commerce for 3 days, and I will forget about this matter." Smashing someone's signboard was equivalent to slapping someone in the face. To a Chamber of Commerce, this was the greatest humiliation. Xiao Qin did not feel that he had gone overboard. The law and reason were on his side. Even if Emperor Wu, the overseer of the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce at Treasure Dragon Island, rushed over, Xiao Qin would still fight for what was right and not shrink back. Without giving Elder Feng any chance to quibble or speak, Xiao Qin directly used the 8 strands of primordial energy to form a restriction and left it in Elder Feng's body. Not only could Elder Feng not move, but he also could not say a word. When such a scene landed in the eyes of the cultivators who were watching the show, they felt an unparalleled dominance and dominance. The entire Dragon Grave Sea would definitely be startled by this. Just at this moment, a figure suddenly descended from the sky. His strong aura carried an extremely horrifying pressure. As he descended bit by bit, the gravity on everyone's shoulders increased bit by bit. This is the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce's overseer of the Dragon Grave Sea, Emperor Wu, Senior Luo Zhen. Many cultivators gaped. Actually, they had already guessed that today's matter would definitely startle the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce's overseer of the Dragon Grave Sea, Emperor Wu. However, no one expected the other party to arrive so quickly. The moment Xiao Qin subdued Elder Feng, the Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce's Emperor Wu, Luo Zhen, appeared. This Emperor Wu wore plain robes of alternating blue and white. He had long hair, long eyebrows, and a long beard. He did not have the ruthless and murderous air of the cultivators of the Dragon Grave Sea. Instead, he gave off a friendly feeling. I rushed over as soon as I received the news. I was still too late. Old man Luo glanced at the kneeling Elder Feng and frowned slightly. Then, he looked up at Xiao Qin and said, "Not bad. It looks like the rumors are true. You have indeed condensed the heart of an emperor." Xiao Qin raised his eyebrows and said, "This is somewhat surprising. This should be my first time meeting Senior. How is it that you know so much about me?" Old man Luo smiled faintly and said, "In our circle, people have been paying attention to you for a long time. The news about you has never stopped. In Emperor Wu's circle, there is an Emperor Wu's substitute ranking. In recent years, you have risen the fastest on this ranking, reaching the top 20. Top 20. If there really was such a ranking, Xiao Qin would be happy to be able to rank in the top 20. The Emperor Wu's substitute ranking was not a ranking of the outstanding talents of the younger generation. Instead, it recorded all the cultivators who had the chance to advance to martial emperor in the past 1,000 years. It did not take into account age or seniority. It was a ranking of all the cultivators qualified to advance to martial emperor. It did not matter whether one had lived for a few hundred years or decades. As long as one had the qualifications to advance to martial emperor, it would be included. How long was 1,000 years? How many geniuses would appear one after another? As for the Emperor Wu's substitute ranking, it was a ranking that had been accumulating for 1,000 years. Basically, the older one was, the higher one's rank would be. It was indeed not easy for Xiao Qin to charge into the top 20 of this 1,000-year Emperor Wu's substitute ranking in a short 31 years. However, you rise fast and fall fast. Your ranking just fell out of the top 100. Chapter 12:28. Why? Xiao Qin asked, feeling suspicious. Luo Zhen pointed to Elder Feng and said, "Get him to stand up." "I'll tell you why." The old man's voice was so clear that everyone could hear him clearly. Everyone was dumbfounded. The mighty Emperor Wu's true body descended and wanted to get his own people to stand up. However, he was actually negotiating with Xiao Qin. Furthermore, based on Xiao Qin's appearance, he seemed to be thinking about it, unwilling to do so. What was going on? To think that a consummation blue-robed emperor could speak to Emperor Wu on equal terms. In this world where strength reigns supreme, this was simply too inconceivable. Xiao Qin shook his head and said, "There's no need. I can roughly guess the reason. Xiao Qian's fall must have something to do with the heart of an emperor. Now that he had condensed the heart of an emperor, the difficulty of his great tribulation of wind and fire would multiply. In the eyes of others, the risk of advancing to martial emperor had become much harder. In reality, in Xiao Qian's opinion, he was not afraid of the difficulty increasing. He was only afraid of not having the time. So what if the difficulty did not increase? If he did not have the time to undergo the great tribulation of wind and fire, he would not stand a chance at all. No matter how difficult it was, as long as he could undergo the great tribulation of wind and fire, he would have some hope of advancing to martial emperor. Furthermore, the higher the risk, the higher his achievements would be if he advanced to martial emperor. It looks like Senior also knows who is right and who is wrong in this matter. I am not an inflexible person. If there is really enough useful information for me, I do not mind getting him to stand up. Xiao Qin thought for a while before continuing, of course, if there is none, then he can only continue kneeling. One has to apologize for their mistakes. A strange light flashed in old man Luo's eyes. Then, he turned around and looked around, his gaze landing on the people watching the excitement. The cultivators who felt old man Luo's gaze immediately understood what he meant. Old man Luo was about to make a move. When these people looked behind them, their hearts sank, and they quickly left. Without a sound, with just a glance, Xiao Qin chased away all the unnecessary people in a 5-kilometer radius. Xiao Qin was secretly on guard. Emperor Wu's deterrence was really huge, even though this old man Luo didn't look like the strong Emperor Wu. In that case, I'll tell you something. The distant sea dragon grave is the only 9-star dragon grave in the Dragon Grave Sea. I heard that the ancient Dragon King's 9-star dragon grave is buried there. 3 days later, a group of Emperor Wus will work together to explore it. As he spoke, old man Luo placed his hand on Elder Feng's shoulder and checked the condition of his body. He could not help but frown. There were actually 8 strands of primordial energy left in Elder Feng's body. Furthermore, each strand was extremely condensed and had a layer of purple sparks. Not hurting Elder Feng was going to be a little difficult. Xiao Chen's eyes flickered, his expression uncertain. He did not understand how this information was useful to him. The distant sea dragon grave was one of the 8 great forbidden lands. Every decade or century, there would be Emperor Wu's experts working together to explore it. This was very normal. As a remnant, it would be abnormal if no cultivators went to explore it. Strange. Based on your appearance, you don't seem to know that the ancient dragon race and the Dragon's Gate have a close relationship. You don't seem to be curious about the depths at all. Old man Luo observed Xiao Chen's expression as he removed the restriction on Elder Feng. There is such a thing. A light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. He raised his hand and removed the restriction on Elder Feng, allowing him to heave a sigh of relief and stand up quickly. When Luo Zhen saw Xiao Chen remove the restriction on Elder Feng, he also heaved a sigh of relief. It would be very easy for him to destroy these 8 strands of primordial energy. Luo Zhen's understanding and usage of primordial energy far surpassed Xiao Chen's. Unfortunately, this energy was controlled by Xiao Chen. If Xiao Chen wanted to, he could use the restriction formed by the primordial energy to kill Elder Feng before Luo Zhen, even though Luo Zhen was already here. It looked like this white-clad youth before Luo Zhen was not as arrogant as he appeared to be. He knew when to stop when things had reached a certain point. In the future, I will leave the southern part of the city to your Green Dragon Chamber of Commerce. Consider it the price for Heavenly Essence Chamber of Commerce's reckless actions. It was better to have a friend than an enemy. Clearly, Xiao Chen now had the value to befriend Luo Zhen, a minor Heavenly Realm Emperor Wu. Since things had already reached this point, he might as well take a step back and do Xiao Chen a favor. Xiao Chen smiled faintly and did not stand on ceremony, accepting the other party's concession. He had already achieved his goal of establishing his might. If he continued to demand an exorbitant price, he would not know when to stop. Whoosh! Luo Zhen quickly left this place with Elder Feng, flying towards Treasure Dragon Island. They moved so fast that no one could see them. Senior Luo, why did you let this brat off? Given your strength, defeating him should be an easy task. Elder Feng, who was in the air, appeared unconvinced and confused. A junior had forced him to kneel on the ground. This was something he found hard to swallow. Luo Zhen replied indifferently, so what? He has the Thunder King and the newly advanced Haotian Prime behind him. It is not like we can kill him. We can humiliate him. Since he made me kneel, you can make him kneel as well, Elder Feng immediately said. Luo Zhen retorted indifferently, you are overthinking this. You made 2 mistakes in this matter. First, you were in the wrong first. His raw C humiliated you for no reason at all. I do not mind teaching him a lesson. Second, you are blind. Can't you tell that once he advances to Martial Emperor, he will be like Jean Lin transforming into a dragon? You are still thinking of how to humiliate such a person. Do you want to wait until he becomes a dragon and bites you to death in one bite? When Elder Feng heard this, he felt stifled, not knowing how to rebut. Luo Zhen said indifferently, get over it. If he did not have the Thunder King behind him, killing him would be the best choice. Since you cannot kill him, this is the best course of action. Actually, this is not your fault. Without advancing to Martial Emperor, your horizons are too limited. You cannot see things too far. Elder Feng's expression dimmed. These words truly stung him. To him, becoming Emperor Wu was an extravagant hope. He would never know what that mysterious circle was like in this lifetime. Even though Elder Feng knew that his horizons were limited, he did not know where they were. Just thinking about it made him feel sorrowful. In the city, after Xiao Chen and Kim Taeho asked about Heavenly Star Island and found out that everything was fine there, they started asking about the distant Sea Dragon Grave. Originally, Xiao Chen did not think much of the distant Sea Dragon Grave, a great forbidden land. Previously, when Xiao Chen came to the Dragon Grave Sea, he did not have any thoughts of going to the distant Sea Dragon Grave to explore it and search for fortuitous encounters. However, this time, after hearing Luo Zhen say that the ancient dragon clan and the Dragon's Gate were inextricably linked, he could not help but feel tempted. Furthermore, Xiao Chen's strength had increased greatly, and he had condensed the heart of an emperor. It should be much safer for him to enter the distant Sea Dragon Grave. The news he had gathered from various sources had thoroughly piqued Xiao Chen's interest. News from too long ago could not be verified. However, 10,000 years ago, the Qing Emperor had entered and exited the distant sea dragon graveyard 8 times. This was a piece of news that could be verified. Even now, the distant sea dragon grave still retained many remnants of the battles from 10,000 years ago. The Dragon's Gate had a long history. Perhaps only the current clan head of the Sky Dome Realm's Shao clan knew how long it had been around for. However, it was certain that it was definitely more than 10,000 years old. At the very least, there was already a complete inheritance in the ancient era before the Hundred Race War. Before the Qing Emperor, the Dragon's Gate also had a glorious past. Several of the Dragon's Gate's sect masters had explored the distant sea dragon grave. However, it was too long ago, so this information could not be verified. The only one who could be sure was the Qing Emperor. Xiao Chen sorted out the information in his hand and muttered, "If this information is true, then what exactly is in the distant sea dragon grave that attracted the successive sect masters of the Dragon's Gate to rush over?" The ancient dragon race was filled with suspicions. Unfortunately, to find out all this, one had to infiltrate the core of the distant sea dragon grave. Given Xiao Chen's current strength, he estimated that it should not be a problem for him to wander around the periphery of the distant sea dragon grave. He should be able to enter and leave safely. However, if he went into the depths, it would be hard to return. As for the core region, there was no need to even think about it. That was a place that even the greater heavenly emperor Wu had to be careful about. Even sovereign martial emperors might not dare to say that they could come and go as they pleased. Right now, there was an opportunity. 3 days later, a group of Emperor Wu would be working together to explore the depths of the distant sea dragon grave. Xiao Chen could follow them and fish in troubled waters. Although he could not go to the core region, it would be much better than wandering around the periphery. Perhaps he might be able to discover something in the depths. Xiao Chen had never been a hesitant person. After thinking for a while, he made his decision. Go. There were still 3 days. Xiao Chen could use this time to stabilize his cultivation and make his preparations. It was already late at night. Xiao Chen sat cross-legged in a cultivation room in a quiet courtyard. Then, he used the heart of an emperor to open that mysterious door of space and time again. The world behind the door was still hazy, distant and unfathomable. It was vast and majestic, mysterious and unfathomable. It inspired reverence in one's heart, not daring to profane it. Xiao Chen carefully absorbed the primordial energy spreading in the world behind the door. Strands of pure white energy dripped down. Compared to the first time, Xiao Chen could no longer obtain a complete strand of primordial energy in one go. Not to mention 10 strands, he could not even obtain 1 strand. It was all this sort of tiny drops of primordial mist power that left one dispirited and dispirited. Xiao Chen did not know when he would be able to form a complete strand of primordial energy. Now that he thought about it, it was no wonder Ao Jiao had said that obtaining 10 strands of primordial energy the first time was already a lot. However, after holding on for about 15 minutes, the heart of an emperor could no longer hold on to open this primordial door. Xiao Chen calmed himself down and stopped thinking. He infused all the primordial raindrops he absorbed into the heart of an emperor, infusing them into the 10 strands of primordial energy. With Xiao Chen's hard work over the past half a month, the originally pure white primordial energy had already turned purple after Xiao Chen infused his law energy into it. With the lightning attribute, Xiao Chen would be able to use it with greater ease when using it. Xiao Chen had already successfully infused 3,000 of the 20,000 law energy around the heart of an emperor. Chapter 1229. Under Xiao Chen's meticulous cultivation, the originally weak strands of primordial energy became increasingly denser. As they swam about, the force they carried grew stronger. After Xiao Chen finished cultivating the primordial energy, he immediately took out an essence stone and started to absorb the spiritual energy in it without any fear. The 10 strands of primordial energy were like babies waiting to be fed, and the heavenly laws were the best food. Right now, Xiao Chen no longer faced any bottlenecks. He was no longer in the predicament of having a large number of resources but being stuck at the bottleneck of the great perfection blue-robed emperor, unable to use them. Now, he only feared having too few resources, not having too many. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. However, when Xiaochen ended his cultivation, the 10 strands of purple primordial energy had clearly deepened. There was still 1 more day before they had to depart. Hence, Xiaochen did not rush to the distant sea dragon grave. Instead, he searched through the universe ring before taking out the cycle banner. He had not used this secret treasure for a long time already. This time, it was time to refine it and turn it into a trump card for his fight with Emperor Wu. 5 of the cycle banner's thrones had already been refined into astral pearls: the massacre throne, the death throne, the ruin throne, the grief throne, and the despair throne. Only the pain throne and the destruction throne remained. As for the news of the last 2 thrones, Xiaochen had spent a lot of money to get the Kunlun Realm's intelligence department to help him search for them. Xiaochen had also asked many of his good friends for help. However, there had been no news. In the end, the destruction and pain of the 2 thrones seemed to have vanished without a trace. There were no traces at all. Xiaochen could not rush such a thing. Who knew? There might not be any news at all. Then, when the opportunity arrived, he might accidentally find news of the thrones. Not to mention the news of the last 2 thrones, the cycle banner, which already had 5 thrones, possessed extraordinary might. However, Xiaochen did not use any secret treasures. As a bladesman, he trusted the saber in his hand and his own strength more. Xiaochen did not spend any time refining the cycle banner a second time. Right now, Xiaochen had no choice but to refine it. He did not know what dangers he would run into in the distant sea dragon grave. 1 more trump card was 1 more chance of survival. After thinking for a while, Xiaochen put away the cycle banner and walked out of the cultivation room. Then, he flew away from the island where a large number of cultivators gathered and found a deserted island on the surface of the sea. Refining the cycle banner would definitely cause a huge commotion. If they did not find a quiet place, it would be inconvenient to do so. The deserted island beneath their feet was barren, except for oddly shaped rocks and barren hills. Looking up at the starry sky in the dark night, it was vast and serene. Xiaochen pushed off the ground and landed at the peak of the desolate mountain. With a thought, the cycle banner appeared in his hand. Then, he swung the banner. The scarlet banner unfurled, and the 7 astral pearls on it glistened brightly. Instantly, countless starlight descended from the sky. Like a meteor shower, the deserted islands suddenly became dreamy. The color of the astral pearls infused with the 5 thrones on the banner was even denser and more piercing. Even the pure black of the death astral pearl was eye-catching and piercing, looking very strange. Actually, the cycle banner in Xiaochen's hand had already surpassed the category of astral banners long ago. However, when he infused the thrones into it, it changed. However, the roots were still there. If Xiaochen wanted to refine it, he would need a large amount of resources. Fortunately, Xiaochen had just obtained the treasures that the Thunder King left behind and did not lack resources. Xiaochen intended to melt down an emperor-grade secret treasure and infuse the resources obtained from its decomposition into the cycle banner. Xiaochen had only one goal: to forge the cycle banner into a pseudo-emperor-grade secret treasure. Why did he add the word pseudo? It was because he could not bring out the full might of a true emperor-grade secret treasure. Without Emperor Wu's golden body, he would not be able to endure the pressure that an emperor-grade secret treasure brought to his body. The pseudo-emperor-grade secret treasure that Xiaochen wanted to refine would allow him to move freely and bring out 100% of its might. Furthermore, its grade far surpassed that of a peak king-grade secret treasure. After thinking about it, Xiaochen could only describe the newly refined cycle banner as a pseudo-emperor-grade secret treasure. Among the treasures that the Thunder King left behind was a set of sabers, the 7 deadly sins. Every one of them was a divine weapon. Naturally, Xiaochen could not bear to melt them down. Aside from these, there were 4 emperor-grade secret treasures. After lending one to Su Tianyun, he still had 3 left. Emperor-grade secret treasures were very rare. Normally, the 9 ranks of the great families would only have one emperor-grade secret treasure passed down from generation to generation. Now, Xiaochen had 3. If word of this got out, everyone would die of envy. A large group of Emperor Wu's secret treasures. If these people knew that Xiaochen was vexed over which emperor-grade secret treasure to melt, they would probably feel like dying. I'll take this one, the profound water treasure armor. I have the blue dragon war body. Defense is not my weakness. Furthermore, a water-attributed treasure armor conflicts with my lightning-attributed body. After thinking about it for a while, Xiaochen finally made up his mind. He chose an emperor-grade secret treasure armor, preparing to use it to complete his cycle banner. If the Thunder King were still alive and saw you wasting the secret treasures he left behind, I wonder what he would think. Ao Jiao muttered from the immortal spirit ring. Xiaochen smiled happily and replied, he wouldn't think anything. Did you not see that the Thunder King did not even leave a mark on them? To the Thunder King, although these things are precious, they are actually burdens. He can only leave them there. I am making the best use of them. When he finds out, he will definitely feel gratified. He can finally use these eyesores. Ao Jiao's lips curled up as she said, sophistry. What I said is definitely the truth. Look, you don't even know how to refute it, Xiaochen said with a smile. Then, he started to melt this emperor-grade secret treasure. Forging an emperor-grade secret treasure was extremely difficult. However, destroying it from the inside was very easy. First, Xiaochen left a spiritual mark on the emperor-grade secret treasure to recognize him as its master. Then, he broke the hidden formations in the flowing cloud treasure armor one by one. When all the formations were broken, the profound water treasure armor suddenly released a resplendent light. A strong emperor's might soared into the sky. The light illuminated the surrounding 50 kilometers like it was day. The dazzling light deterred anyone from looking at it directly. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes and said, fortunately, I had the foresight to find a sufficiently desolate island. Otherwise, who knows what kind of trouble this commotion would cause. The light did not last long. By the time it scattered, the profound water treasure armor had already broken down into thousands of different parts floating in the air. In the dark night, every part gave off a firefly-like light, looking beautiful and flawless. In the very center was a jewel giving off an aquamarine light. That was the profound water heart. This was the core divine material of this emperor-grade secret treasure. It could be said that without the profound water heart, the profound water treasure armor would not exist. Xiaochen's eyes lit up. Each of the thousands of parts represented 50 tons of peak divine materials. Furthermore, there was the profound water heart. With so many divine materials, he would definitely achieve his goal if he used them to refine the cycle banner. I'll refine the first astral pearl first, massacre. With a thought, the black astral pearl in the cycle banner automatically flew out. Xiaochen took out the dragon phoenix cauldron, and the astral pearl slowly fell into the cauldron with a thought. Light flickered in Xiaochen's left eye, and all the lunar true flame spewed out, spreading throughout the cauldron and burning fiercely. Then, with a wave of his hand, hundreds of emperor-grade secret treasure parts fell into the cauldron. Now, there was a total of 5 tons of divine materials. If the experts of the Zodiac Hall saw such a scene, they would cry in agony. This was too extravagant. With 5 tons of divine materials, one could forge many peak astral banners with them. However, Xiaochen only used them to refine one astral pearl. Furthermore, it looked like he intended to continue using millions of tons of divine materials. This could not be helped. The others had been searching for resources everywhere with bitter expressions on their faces. However, Xiaochen was worried about how to use these resources and not let them go to waste in the universe ring. For the 5 astral pearls, Xiaochen used 40 million tons of divine materials. The banner used the remaining 10 million tons of divine materials. As for the profound water heart, Xiaochen used it on the scarlet banner, adding a profound water attribute to it. As the banner danced, it moved like waves. It was like a boundless ocean surging and roaring, causing the entire space to tremble. Dawn approached, and the morning sun peeked out. The warm sunlight swept away all the darkness in the world. At this moment, Xiaochen also finished refining the cycle banner. He grasped the banner pole and waved it ferociously. The banner unfurled and fluttered in the wind. The sound of rumbling water resounded in the world, surging endlessly. On the surface of the sea around the deserted island, huge waves rose up, stretching for hundreds of miles. Massacre, ruin, death, grief, and despair. The 5 astral pearls on the banner suddenly gave off a bright light. Boundless starlight poured down. The originally bright sky above them suddenly turned completely dark. The light of the cycle banner completely outshone the morning sun, causing night to descend once more. When one looked up, one could see the stars filling the sky. 5-colored starlight flickered, and the cycle banner gave off a destructive astral energy. As Xiaochen held the banner pole, he could clearly feel the energy contained in the astral banner. With a shout, Xiaochen spun the banner around like a spear. Then, he gently stabbed the cycle banner into the ground. Boom! Without a sound, the desolate island under their feet was instantly shattered by the 5-colored starlight contained in the war flag, turning it into dust and ashes. A huge black hole appeared out of nowhere on the vast sea, looking extremely horrifying. Xiao Chen's figure flashed backward, and the whirlpool formed by the black hole created a huge wave that soared into the clouds. As Xiao Chen watched the huge wave soar into the sky, he felt a sense of pride in his chest as he held the cycle banner. When the huge wave fell, Xiao Chen unfurled the cycle banner and waved it on the sea to his heart's content. Massacre, death, ruin, grief, and despair. The states of 5 different attributes merged with the starlight, releasing a 5-colored light. Under the night sky, as Xiao Chen waved the banner, the cycle banner erupted with startling energy on the surface of the sea. As he waved it, starlight exploded, the ground rumbled, and the entire space trembled. However, although this cycle banner can injure an ordinary Emperor Wu with its current might, it is far from enough to make him feel fear. Xiao Chen held the war banner in his hand as he stood in the air. Heavy rain poured endlessly in the sky. Chapter 12:30. The rain mixed with the starlight falling. In the night sky filled with stars, it formed a magnificent, dreamlike scene. Xiao Chen allowed the rain to fall as he calmly observed the might of the cycle banner. Ao Jiao had explained to Xiao Chen before. Aside from Prime, Emperor Wu had 3 major realms: Minor Heavenly Emperor Wu, Greater Heavenly Emperor Wu, and Sovereign Martial Emperor. Each realm had 3 minor heavens. Together, they were Emperor Wu's 9 heavens. The first heaven, second heaven, and third heaven were all minor Heavenly Emperor Wu. Every time he broke through a heaven, he would have to face a strong lightning tribulation. After clearing it, his strength would improve greatly, reborn, gaining new comprehensions and breakthroughs in all aspects. If he could not clear it, naturally, he would die under the lightning tribulation. However, most Emperor Wu would not choose to break through unless he was completely confident. At this realm, few people could maintain the ferocity and drive they had before advancing to Martial Emperor. Emperor Wu had a long lifespan and was highly respected. He was aloof and respected by everyone. Under such conditions, most people cherished their lives. Of course, there were also crazy people who would undergo 2 or even 3 lightning tribulations at once, defying the heavens. In history, such people were usually either lunatics or peerless geniuses, existences that could lead an era. Every 3 heavens, there would be a major breakthrough, entering a brand new realm. If one could clear the 9 heavens, they would be known as Prime. Was there a peak after Prime? No one dared to say for sure. Although Xiao Chen was not Emperor Wu yet, he had already condensed the heart of an emperor and could cultivate primordial energy. His physical body had already reached the half-step golden body realm. He was only half a step away from Emperor Wu. Xiao Chen estimated that the current cycle banner could injure the minor Heavenly Emperor Wu, who was at the first heaven of Emperor Wu. However, it was not enough to make the other party fear it, making it a true trump card. A pseudo-emperor-grade secret artifact is indeed a pseudo-emperor-grade secret artifact. Although I can control it freely, it is still slightly inferior to an emperor-grade secret artifact. Xiao Chen, who was in the air, said with some distress. Suddenly, as he pressed his hand on the flagpole and the 5 rays of starlight, an idea flashed in his mind. Would it form the strongest strike of the cycle banner if Xiao Chen completely merged the 5 states of massacre, destruction, death, grief, and despair, which contained astral energy? Thinking of this, Xiao Chen immediately took action. He grasped the banner pole and swung it in the air, using primordial energy to drive the cycle banner. Then, it started to absorb as much of the astral energy in the sky as possible. The blood-colored flag unfurled and fluttered in the wind, rumbling non-stop. Under Xiao Chen's crazy absorption, the scattered starlight in the sky completely gathered together and condensed into 5 light pillars that pierced through the sky. 5 beams of light of different colors lined up and landed on Xiao Chen's back in unison. Immediately, a boundless water screen appeared on the surface of the sea, reflecting the starlight. This water screen, which spanned 500 kilometers and was tens of thousands of meters tall, looked very dazzling. With one glance, one would be mesmerized by it, looking like a dreamy paradise. The 5 completely merged states made the gorgeous cycle banner look plain and simple. However, as Xiao Chen held the banner pole, he felt like he was holding a mountain range. It was incredibly heavy and filled with explosive energy. The 5 kinds of energy struggled to maintain a balance in the seemingly ordinary banner. They were like silent volcanoes. Once they erupted, they would shake the world. Sweat trickled down Xiao Chen's forehead. He found this somewhat strenuous, finding it hard to maintain that balance. Xiao Chen forcefully calmed himself and shouted. He waved the banner, and it became like a spear as he thrust it at the space in front. Whoosh! The water screen behind Xiao Chen shot out and turned into raindrops of multicolored light falling down. A perfect black hole silently appeared where the tip of the banner pointed. There were no cracks or openings at the edges of the hole. Piercing through space. As the panting Xiao Chen looked at that black hole, these words immediately appeared in his mind. This black hole before Xiao Chen was very different from the spatial tears of the past. In the past, no matter how strong the martial techniques were, they would only cause some instability in space, creating cracks that would automatically mend after a while. This black hole completely pierced through space. Furthermore, the force behind it was very strong. It was impossible to mend it quickly. Space was like a complicated building. The space of the Kunlun realm was not only firm but also very resilient. Piercing through space required Emperor Wu to be at least a 3rd heaven martial emperor or the peak strike of an emperor-grade secret treasure. For the cycle banner to reach this point, the word fake could already be removed from its name. It was now a bona fide emperor-grade secret treasure. Furthermore, it could allow Xiao Chen to control it as he pleased. Thinking of this, Xiao Chen could not help laughing loudly. Right now, it was already comparable to an emperor-grade secret treasure. In that case, when the Pain Throne and the Destruction Throne were gathered, it would advance to an emperor-grade secret treasure. Its might would rival the primordial emperor-grade secret treasures of the 5 major races. After laughing enough, Xiao Chen calmed down and said, thinking about that now is too far away. The important thing is before me. I finally have a trump card that I can use to challenge the minor heavenly Emperor Wu. Xiao Chen put away the cycle banner, and all the mysterious phenomena immediately vanished. The night sky vanished, and the morning sun reappeared. A warm gaze swept over without fear. The entire sea turned golden. As Xiao Chen looked at the boundless sea, he was in a good mood. It is time to go to the distant sea dragon grave. Xiao Chen calmed his emotions and took out the sea chart. Then, he located the distant sea dragon grave. Then, he swiped his finger and stopped on an island. This was the largest island of the Dragon Grave Sea, Treasure Dragon Island. All the cultivators adventuring in the distant sea dragon grave would use this island as their last stop. They would either recruit companions or buy medicinal pills. There were all sorts of things that adventurers needed. No matter what grade of Dragon Grave one went to explore, they would use this place as their last stop. Even the distant sea dragon grave was no exception. Xiaochen pushed off with his feet and unfurled the freedom wings. Then, he executed Thunder Dragon steps and rushed towards Treasure Dragon Island at lightning speed. He was so fast that he looked like a purple bolt of lightning. Xiaochen moved like a roaming dragon, moving without a trace. Using his fastest speed, Xiaochen arrived at Treasure Dragon City in less than 7 minutes. After arriving at the restaurant that led to the underground market, Xiaochen spent a large sum of money to obtain the information he wanted from a consummation blue-robed emperor. Hee. There is indeed a group of Emperor Wus preparing to explore the distant sea dragon grave. All the half-step Emperor Wus of the Dragon Grave Sea have already heard the news and are rushing over. Xiaochen looked at the somewhat ruffian middle-aged man across him and asked, "Why are the half-step Emperor Wus rushing over?" The middle-aged man who took 100,000 black astral coins from Xiaochen chuckled and said, "Naturally, to be cannon fodder." That works too. There are people fighting to be cannon fodder. Xiaochen could not understand. The middle-aged man's lips curled up as he looked at Xiaochen with an expression that said, "That will depend on where you are going. This is a great forbidden land, the distant sea dragon grave. Not to mention, even if you want to go, it will depend on whether those Emperor Wus are willing to use you or not. If I were a half-step Emperor Wus, I would go as well. A great forbidden land. How tempting is that? This is how cultivators are. There will always be some fortuitous encounters. Even though one knows how dangerous it is, one will still not be able to resist the temptation." Xiaochen nodded, understanding the principle behind this. This was a matter of mutual consent. For the sake of caution or because there were not enough people, these Emperor Wus needed some cannon fodder to scout the way. Those half-step Emperor Wus did not have the ability to enter the distant sea dragon grave themselves. Even though they knew that they would be used as cannon fodder, they still wanted to borrow Emperor Wu's strength to explore the distant sea dragon grave. "Tell me where it is." "I'll rush over," Xiaochen said after some thought. The other party did not dare to believe what he said. The somewhat ruffian middle-aged man laughed and sized up Xiaochen. Then, he waved his hand and said, "Brother, I admit that it is a bit of a scam to take so many black astral coins from you. However, I sincerely advise you not to go. Of course, I am not worried that you will not be able to return from the distant sea dragon grave. Unless those Emperor Wus are blind, you will not be able to go with your strength. I am afraid that those half-step Emperor Wus will find trouble for you and humiliate yourself." When Xiaochen heard this, he smiled, feeling somewhat amused. He asked, "What is your name? You are rather honest with your words. Just a lousy name with no reputation at all." "My surname is Feng, and my given name is Buyu. The cool breeze does not speak, it comes slowly and drifts away." The middle-aged man calmly accepted Xiaochen's praise and introduced himself in a poetic manner. Xiaochen nodded and repeated it in his heart. Then, he nodded and said, "Remember. The cool breeze does not speak. Now, you can tell me where that group of Emperor Wus are recruiting half-step Emperor Wus." Feng Buyu exclaimed in shock, "You really want to go?" Xiaochen replied calmly, "Naturally, I have to go. Otherwise, why do you think I gave you 100,000 black astral coins? I am not a fool or a fool. I am just in a rush." Feng Buyu put down his wine cup and gave Xiaochen a thumbs up. "You are strong. Let me tell you. Head south of the city, there is a mountain manor built by a lake. That is the Dragon Slayer's mountain manor. This time, he is the one leading Emperor Wu's recruitment." Dragon Slayer? When Xiaochen heard this name, he felt somewhat uncomfortable. As the inheritor of the Qing Emperor, Xiaochen was conferred the title of Blue Dragon King. Now that this person was called the Dragon Slayer, he could not help but feel strange. "Yes, that's him. I heard that this fellow comes from the heavenly starry ocean. He does not spend much time in the Dragon Grave Sea every year. However, he is a legend of the Dragon Grave Sea," Feng Buyu said. From the heavenly starry ocean? This piqued Xiao Chen's interest. He looked at Feng Buyu and asked, "What do you mean?" Feng Buyu smiled faintly. After hesitating for a while, he said, "When I sell people's information, I never give it away for free. However, the 2 pieces of information today are not much. Let me tell you a little more. The Dragon Slayer's cultivation does not look high, but he gives off an unfathomable feeling. Even I do not dare to enter some of the dragon graves that he has entered. Even some of the half-step Emperor Wus do not dare to do so." Feng Buyu poured himself a cup of wine. Then, he continued, he has explored thousands of dragon graves. Every time he goes on a mission, he definitely gains something. This is how the name of the Dragon Slayer came about. The most miraculous scene is that he once entered the distant sea dragon grave alone and came out alive. Chapter 1231. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. His cultivation was not high, but he could come and go as he pleased in the various dangerous dragon graves. There was only one explanation. He had the unique ability to restrain the various dragon race guards and primeval dragon might. Although this ability was rare, it was not non-existent. For example, the Ho ghost that Xiao Chen once saw. It fed on dragons and swallowed them like eating earthworms. It was the natural nemesis of the dragon race. Hearing Feng Buyu say this, Xiao Chen became even more interested. Who exactly was this mysterious dragon slayer? His cultivation was not high, but he could come and go as he pleased in the various dragon graves. He even went through the distant sea dragon grave. "Thank you for your advice. I'm leaving." Xiao Chen smiled faintly and drank to his heart's content. Then, he drifted away. Feng Buyu held his wine cup and looked at Xiao Chen's back. He shook his head and smiled. These days, there are all kinds of people. Why is a consummation blue-robed emperor trying to get involved in the excitement of a half-step Emperor Wu? I, Feng Buyu, know my own limits. The cool breeze does not speak. It comes slowly and drifts away. However, the cool breeze does not speak. I think slowly, do not come. As soon as he finished speaking, he really flew away like the wind, leaving the restaurant in a fluttering manner. The location that Feng Buyu mentioned was easy to find. After Xiao Chen left the city, he wore a mask that covered half of his face. After walking 5 kilometers to the south, he saw a manor by the lake. There was a signboard on the door, Dragon Slaying Manor. There was a couplet on the left and right sides. The first line was, "I have the courage to search the world's dragon graves." The second line was, "I have the passion to kill all the berserk dragons in the world." It was an ordinary couplet. There was nothing literary about it. Strictly speaking, it could not even be considered a couplet. However, in Xiao Chen's opinion, this was probably done on purpose by the manor lord to show off his arrogance and dominance. How arrogant! Let's see what kind of background this dragon slayer has. Xiao Chen's lips curled up slightly. He walked towards the door and was stopped by the guards. "What are you doing?" "Today, the beheading dragon villa is recruiting the half-step Emperor Wu. Unrelated people are not allowed to enter," the guards said bluntly. As expected, they were all the same. The dragon slayer was boundlessly arrogant. Even his guards were condescending. Even his strength on the surface was at the level of a great perfection blue-robed emperor, which was far from what the 2 lesser mastery blue-robed emperors could compare to. However, he still had an arrogant look on his face, looking high and mighty. As Xiao Chen pondered how to get in, he caught sight of a stone stele off to the side. He smiled faintly as he came up with an idea. If I can light up all the purple gems on the 6th row in an instant, I should be qualified to enter. The 2 lower mastery blue-robed emperors sneered. You think you can light up all the purple gems in an instant? Don't joke around. Quickly scram. Without the strength of a half-step Emperor Wu, don't even think about lighting up all the purple gems. Don't overthink it. That stone stele is not for you to test. It is just to test whether the strength of some half-step Emperor Wu is sufficient. Xiao Chen smiled faintly. I am not overthinking it. Whoosh! Xiao Chen's figure flashed, and he casually punched. Amid the flickering light, aside from the golden gems on the 7th row, all the gems lit up. Xiao Chen did it easily, without any difficulty. Looking at the two dumbfounded guards, Xiao Chen withdrew his fist in satisfaction. That was a little too fast. How easy. It feels like there is no pressure at all. Several of the half-step Emperor Wu had to take a deep breath before they dared to make a move. Before advancing to great perfection blue-robed Emperor, Xiao Chen could easily light up 7 purple gems. After advancing to great perfection blue-robed Emperor, Xiao Chen's heavenly laws no longer differed from those of a half-step Emperor Wu. Hence, lighting up all the gems in an instant was naturally incredibly easy. In fact, if Xiao Chen wanted to use his primordial energy, he could even light up the golden gems that the half-step Emperor Wu could never light up. However, there was no need to be too shocking. Xiao Chen was not in a rush to expose his strength. Come with me. The guard on the left no longer dared to underestimate Xiao Chen's strength. His attitude became much more respectful as he led Xiao Chen into the manor. There were winding corridors, gardens, and fake mountains. The scenery inside the manor was unique and elegant. Soon, Xiao Chen arrived at a pavilion. Then, he saw the other half-step Emperor Wus that had come because of its fame. When Xiao Chen counted carefully, he found that there were quite a lot of people, close to 20 half-step Emperor Wus. It looked like Feng Buyu was right. Nearly all the half-step Emperor Wus of the entire Dragon Grave Sea had rushed over. Wait here. The Manor Lord will bring a few Lord Emperor Wus out later. There will be another test. After leaving behind these words, the manor guard quickly left. Whoosh! Right after the guard left, Xiao Chen felt many gazes on him. These gazes contained shock, disdain, doubt, and confusion. Brother, you must have come to the wrong place. The one being recruited here is a half-step Emperor Wus, not a consummation blue-robed emperors, a tall and sturdy man wearing beast skins in the pavilion said with a disdainful smile as he looked at Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen found an empty spot and sat down. Then, he replied calmly, I know. However, I do not feel that I am any weaker than a half-step Emperor Wus. This serious answer immediately caused the entire hall to roar with laughter. Many of the older elders could not help but reveal a slight smile. Based on this voice, the person wearing the mask was a youth. Youths tended to be arrogant. They thought that the world revolved around them, not knowing how high the sky was or how deep the earth was. Sometimes, they became a joke in the eyes of others, yet they did not know it. The man in beast skins laughed the loudest. So, it is a fool. To think that I actually spoke to a fool. Never mind, I can't be bothered with you. Just at this moment, footsteps rang out. Looking from the end of the small path, a youth led 4 or 5 people over. The Dragon Slayer is here. The half-step Emperor Wus in the pavilion immediately stopped smiling and sat up properly. Under the mask, Xiao Chen clearly saw the Dragon Slayer's face. His heart skipped a beat. How can it be him? The Dragon Slayer leading the 5 blue-robed emperors was none other than the young treasure master, Yi Ling, whom Xiao Chen had met several times in the heavenly starry ocean. Thinking back to the first time they met, Xiao Chen felt some fear for this person for some reason. The other party's cultivation was clearly not as high as Xiao Chen's, but he instilled fear in Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen recalled the first time they met in the treasure master's residence. The other party had offered him the 3rd cup of wine, making many people unhappy. Now that Xiao Chen thought about it, could there be a deeper meaning to it? Could it be that it was not just because of the several tens of millions of black astral coins? Xiao Chen felt shocked. However, he quickly recovered his wits and calmed down. Fortunately, he had put on a mask before coming, covering his face. Furthermore, he had used the foundation returning art to hide his identity. Hence, the other party should not recognize him. Xiao Chen could not figure it out. He really could not figure it out. This young treasure master, who was so refined in the heavenly starry ocean and did not reveal his sharpness, had such an arrogant side to him, even gaining the title of Dragon Slayer in the Dragon Grave Sea. In terms of sharpness and ambition, this fellow should not be any weaker than the outstanding talents of the heavenly starry ocean. However, he had hidden himself so well. Just thinking about it was terrifying. Young Master Yi. Seeing Yi Ling arrive, the group of half-step Emperor Wu stood up and respectfully greeted him. The title of Dragon Slayer seemed to be very popular in the Dragon Grave Sea. This Yi Ling was just a great perfection blue-robed emperor. However, he managed to make the group of half-step Emperor Wu submit, not daring to show any disrespect. Yi Ling could even attract Emperor Wu's attention to explore the distant sea dragon grave together. However, Yi Ling's cultivation on the surface might not be the real deal. Right now, Xiao Chen already viewed Yi Ling as a dangerous person. Perhaps this fellow was like Xiao Chen, having many trump cards. As a great perfection blue-robed emperor, he could kill a half-step Emperor Wu's expert. Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he sized up the 5 Emperor Wus by Yi Ling's side. With one glance, he determined that they were all minor heavenly Emperor Wus. The strongest was the red-haired, middle-aged man to Yi Ling's left. He should be a second heaven layer Emperor Wu. As for the other 4 Emperor Wus, they were only Emperor Wu's first heaven layer. Even so, as long as they were Emperor Wus, they could already look down on everyone here. Interesting. You are a consummation blue-robed emperor. Why are you here? Yi Ling casually greeted everyone. Then, he shifted his gaze to Xiao Chen. However, I specially invited 2 small perfection blue-robed emperors to stand at the gates in case someone tried to fish in troubled waters. You should have something extraordinary about you for them to come in. That's fine. The test will start with you, then. Initially, Xiao Chen felt somewhat nervous, worried that Yi Ling would figure out his identity. After he heard that, he heaved a sigh of relief. However, it would be somewhat problematic to be the first to take the test. He did not know what kind of strength he had to display to avoid arousing the suspicions of others. Furthermore, he did not know how to test himself. There were too many uncertain factors. It would be fine to be more cautious. My cultivation is the lowest. Can I be the last to take the test? Xiao Chen asked, changing his tone. What a coward. I'll do it. Before Yi Ling could say anything, the cultivator in beast skin who had argued with Xiao Chen first gave Xiao Chen a disdainful look and stepped forward. A light flashed in Yi Ling's eyes. Without thinking too much, he said to an old man on the right, Old Hong, I'll leave it to you. The gray-robed Old Hong nodded and stepped forward. Since all of you can light up 9 purple gems, that means that your offensive power is sufficient. The test of the second stage is defense. The test is very simple. The person who can stand up after receiving a palm strike of 30% of my strength will pass. The moment Old Hong said that, the expressions of the 20-odd half-step Emperor Wu cultivators in the pavilion immediately changed. Emperor Wu was a first heaven layer expert. How were they supposed to receive a palm strike of 30% of their strength? Even if they defended with all their might, they would be severely injured. Fortunately, the rules were rather loose. As long as they could stand up, it did not matter how injured they were. If the results of the test were different, these 20-odd people would all die. The stout man in beast skin appeared somewhat nervous. He somewhat regretted stepping forward first. However, since he already stepped forward, there was no turning back. Bang! Just as the stout man was about to say something to get ready, Old Hong suddenly made a move, landing a palm strike on the chest of the cultivator in beast skin. This palm strike looked very simple. However, the half-step Emperor Wu present all had very good eyesight. They could tell that this palm strike contained at least 10 strands of primordial energy. Chapter 1232. Indeed, Xiao Chen was serious, not feigning at all. He directly used the primordial energy that only martial emperors possessed. Pu Ci. The beast skin cultivator was immediately knocked back and vomited blood. He fell into the pond outside the pavilion and splashed up. Then, he never came out again, his fate unknown. Such a scene sent a chill down everyone's spine. At the same time, they felt somewhat angry. Why did the bona fide Emperor Wu make a move without saying anything? Xiao Chen thought to himself, I got lucky. Fortunately, I was cautious. Otherwise, even if I could receive this sudden palm strike, I would not have ended up well. When Xiao Chen saw the beast skin cultivator fall into the water, he felt some schadenfreude. After all, this fellow had taken the lead in mocking him. Old Hong said indifferently, don't scold me in your heart. He will not die. I held back. There are too many uncertain dangers in the distant sea dragon grave. The guards of the dragon grave will not give you a heads up before making a move. If you do not have the ability to adapt, you can leave now. The many half-step Emperor Wu remained silent for a while. They felt that old Hong's words made some sense. I'll do it. After a while, a middle-aged man with burn marks on his face walked out. This time, Xiao Chen was prepared. When he stepped forward, he circulated all his law energy and activated the P-quality King grade secret treasure he wore. Old Hong did not waste any words. He also sent out a palm strike that looked simple but could easily crush a mountain. Another muffled bang rang out, and one could see that the space where the palms met began to crack like a black spider web. The middle-aged man took 10 steps back. With each step, he vomited a mouthful of blood. After 10 steps, he knelt on one knee and wobbled. His complexion was frighteningly pale. Just as the middle-aged man looked like he was about to fall, his strong willpower allowed him to clench his teeth and roar ferociously as he stood up. When Xiao Chen saw this, he felt shocked. What kind of persistence did this fellow have to be able to stand up after kneeling down? You pass. Old Hong casually waved his hand. He did not care that this person no longer had any combat prowess. As long as he could stand up, he would let him pass. Hearing this, the middle-aged man with the scar on his face heaved a sigh of relief and lay down. The test continued. Every time Senior Hong made a move, he would use 30% of his strength, neither more nor less. Some of them knelt down and couldn't stand up again. Some of them were directly blasted away by a palm strike and fell into the pool, following in the footsteps of the beast-skinned man. Emperor Wu, who was standing on the side, was cold and expressionless. Facing the half-step Emperor Wu who was kneeling on the ground and gritting his teeth, he didn't show any emotion. Looking at the half-step Emperor Wu, it was as if he was inspecting the goods. As Xiao Chen looked at the half-step martial emperors charging forward, his heart turned cold. He no longer had the schadenfreude that he had earlier. If one did not advance to martial emperor, one would be like a pig or a dog in the eyes of some people. More than 20 people finished the test, and only 6 people passed. The passing rate was far less than half. Seeing that Xiao Chen was the only one who had not taken the test yet, everyone focused their attention on him. Senior Hong glanced at Xiao Chen and said indifferently, "You may leave. I will not lower my standards just because you are a consummation blue-robed emperor. If I kill you by mistake, this old man will gain a bad reputation for bullying the younger generation. I will be mocked by the people in this circle." This was blatant disdain. Senior Hong did not spare Xiao Chen out of pity but because he feared a bad reputation. A sense of defeat welled up in Xiao Chen's heart. Among those of the same generation, he stood proudly. However, in the eyes of Emperor Wu, he was still like an ant. However, Xiao Chen was never one to be defeated by setbacks. His path to the peak had never wavered. There's no need. Senior, feel free to send out this palm strike. Under the mask, Xiao Chen stepped forward with his head held high. He did not lower his head or bend his back as he looked straight at the other party. A feeling of pride flowed in Xiao Chen's chest. Everyone has their own pride. Even if you are a martial emperor, I will not cower in fear or lower my voice. Even after so many half-step Emperor Wu were beaten to the ground, Xiao Chen could still step forward with his head held high, neither servile nor overbearing. This attracted many people's attention. The expressions of the people lying on the ground changed. They did not know where this mysterious masked person got his confidence from. A strange light flashed in Senior Hong's eyes. He felt somewhat displeased in his heart as he said coldly, "You asked for this. Don't blame me for being ruthless if I kill you with one palm strike." Xiaoqin smiled and said, "If I die, how can I blame you? If Senior wants to make a move, then make a move." When these words came out, the half-step Emperor Wu who was healing on the ground could not help but laugh. Under such circumstances, Xiaoqin was in the mood to tease, not knowing how to describe this young man. "In that case, I'll fulfill your wish." Senior Hong snorted coldly and quickly attacked. His seemingly plain palm strike moved like lightning, heading for Xiaoqin's chest. Xiaoqin narrowed his eyes. In the short instant that the other party attacked, he clearly saw that the other party had indeed used 10 strands of primordial energy. However, each strand was pure and condensed, containing the attribute of fire. Instantly, Xiaoqin started thinking very quickly in his mind. 10 strands of primordial energy. Xiaoqin happened to have 10 strands of primordial energy as well. If he used all of them, he could block this palm strike with light injuries. However, that would expose his trump card of having primordial energy as well. Xiaoqian's physical body had already reached the level of a half-step golden body. After condensing the blue dragon battle armor, in terms of defense, he could rival an ordinary Emperor Wu's golden body. However, there was a difference in recovery rate, so he could block this palm strike. However, Xiaoqin could not condense the blue dragon battle armor. Otherwise, Yi Ling would recognize him with one glance. Back then, when Xiaoqin used the blue dragon battle armor to fight the myriad fiend islands Di Xinhan's heavenly spiritual body, Yi Ling had seen it. It was impossible for him not to know. Xiaoqin had to think of a way to not expose his blue dragon battle armor or his primordial energy. In that case, that was all he could do. Determination flashed in Xiaoqian's eyes as he did something that no one expected. When facing Senior Hong's palm strike with 30% of his strength, Xiaoqin took another step forward and suddenly punched. That was right. When Xiaoqin faced a first heaven martial emperor expert like Emperor Wu, he chose to use offense as defense. When Xiaoqin punched, he drove the 20 dragon force flowing in his body. A dragon roar sounded like rushing thunder. Dragon-shaped energy surged wildly in the small pavilion. When the berserk punch struck Senior Hong's palm, it was like it struck an immovable mountain. The other party did not move at all. The palm wind carried his body as it pressed towards Xiaoqin. The dragon roar in Xiaoqian's body was interrupted. The spinning dragon-shaped energy behind him also shattered, turning into a strong, chaotic wind that scattered in all directions. Xiaoqin vomited a mouthful of blood and took a step back. As he looked at Senior Hong, who showed a cold smile and did not change his stance, he roared ferociously, again. Xiaoqin punched again and struck that ordinary palm strike. Then, he took another step back. The rebound injured Xiaoqin once more, injuring him once more. This time, the amount of blood he vomited was twice as much as the previous time. The 2 punches did not seem to have any effect. Senior Hong's palm strike did not stop at all. It only weakened slightly as it continued to press towards Xiaoqin. Again. Xiaoqin clenched his teeth and frowned under the mask. Then, he gathered 20 dragon force again and punched with his left hand. Loud rumbling sounds rang out. Every time Xiaoqin took a step back, he vomited a mouthful of blood. At the same time, he punched again, doing what others would think was useless. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoqin took 10 steps back. The entire manor shook under Xiaoqian's roar. However, this manor was clearly extraordinary. There was a strong restriction. Otherwise, the pavilion would have been destroyed in the first test. This fellow. Everyone's expression turned grave. Whether it was the half-step Emperor Wu who failed or the half-step Emperor Wu who passed, shock flashed in their eyes. This was because they were shocked to discover that under Xiaoqian's punches, the aura of Senior Hong's palm strike weakened significantly. Starting from the seventh punch, Senior Hong's body paused for a moment, visible to the naked eye. However, the price he paid was also extremely disastrous. With every punch, the masked young man's injuries would become even more severe. After 9 punches, the injuries stacked on top of each other. No one knew what the consequences would be. This was indeed a method. However, if it were them, they would not dare to try it. Bang! Another punch flew out. Xiao Chen, who had already retreated to the edge of the pavilion, relied on his willpower to send out this final punch. 20 dragon force surged in Xiao Chen's body. Dragon-shaped energy spiraled rapidly in the pond, causing waves to surge. This time, the dragon roar in Xiao Chen's body did not get interrupted. The 20 dragon-shaped energy streams behind him did not scatter either. All this was because Senior Hong's palm strike had run out of energy. A strong wind howled and the dragon roar sounded. Xiao Chen's punch blocked the palm strike that had run out of energy. Instead, it forced the other party to take a step back. Senior Hong was startled and furious. He wanted to send out another palm strike to kill this stubborn youth before him. However, when he thought about how many people were watching and how he said that he would only use 30% of his strength, he retracted his hand in frustration. He retracted his hand angrily and flashed back. After looking at Xiao Chen for 3 seconds and seeing that the other party did not collapse, Senior Hong snorted coldly with some dissatisfaction. Very good. You passed. The surroundings fell silent. No one expected Xiao Chen to pass the test. Furthermore, he even forced the exhausted Senior Hong to take a step back. Although Senior Hong was definitely not injured, a consummation great perfection blue-robed emperor knocked back Emperor Wu. If word of this got out, it would definitely shock the world and cause a huge commotion. More importantly, Xiao Chen was standing. As for the people in front of him, regardless of whether they passed the test or not, they all fell to their knees after receiving this palm strike. Either they fell to the ground and could not get up, or they gritted their teeth and stood up. However, from the start to the end, Xiao Chen did not kneel, even though he was clearly severely injured. If these people knew that Xiao Chen could receive this palm strike with light injuries if he wanted to, who knew what their expressions would be like? After Xiao Chen scattered his vast vital qi, the dragon roar stopped, and the strong wind scattered. Xiao Chen used his spiritual sense to check his injuries. His internal organs were all shattered, and several of his meridians had ruptured. Chapter 1233. If not for his half-step golden body, Xiao Chen would not have dared to clash head-on like this. However, Xiao Chen managed to endure. Even without using his primordial energy or the blue dragon battle armor, he still managed to block Emperor Wu's palm strike. Wait a moment. Take off your mask. Our operation this time is of great importance. We can't allow any unknown person to sneak in. Just as Xiao Chen prepared to treat his injuries, Old Hong suddenly said something that made the atmosphere tense. Old Hong already had a knot in his heart about Xiao Chen. He could not openly make a move on Xiao Chen, so he started to pester him endlessly. Old Hong had only said that he wanted to recruit half-step Emperor Wu. He had never said that he would ask about the other party's identity. Furthermore, the Dragon Grave Sea did not have the rule of asking about the background of others. This was an unwritten taboo among cultivators. However, Old Hong was Emperor Wu. Even if Old Hong wanted to pester him endlessly, he had to do as he said. Xiao Chen's heart sank. Unexpectedly, the other party was the bona fide Emperor Wu. To think that he would be so petty, purposely breaking the unwritten rules among cultivators. Xiao Chen did not believe that the other party did not know about this taboo. The other party had gone from blue-robed emperor to Emperor Wu step by step. Sorry, I cannot remove my mask. Forgive me for not being able to comply. Xiao Chen replied coldly. At the same time, he activated the cycle banner hidden in his body, preparing to flee at any moment. A murderous intent flashed in Old Hong's eyes. Immediately, everyone felt a huge pressure bearing down on them. This was the might of an emperor. It looks like you are indeed up to no good. It is just a mask. Why can't I remove it? If you are not going to remove it, I will help you remove it. Did the first Heaven Emperor Wu really think that he was unrivaled? With the other party's overbearing attitude, Xiaoqin felt enraged. Did the other party really think that he was an ant that he could squash as he pleased? With a thought, Xiaoqin prepared to take out the cycle banner and fight it out with the other party. Stop! Just as Xiaoqin prepared to make a move, the red-haired, middle-aged man beside Yi Ling, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up. His figure flashed as he shielded Old Hong. Immediately, the heavy emperor's might disappeared. It was all blocked by the red-haired middle-aged man. Everyone felt the pressure on them lessen. Old Hong had not expected the red-haired, middle-aged man to make a move to stop him. He was clearly stunned. Although the other party was also a minor heavenly martial emperor, he was a second heaven martial emperor, one grade higher than Old Hong. If they were to really fight, he wouldn't be a match at all. Brother Hong, there is no need to lower yourself to the level of a junior. No matter where you go, there is no rule of probing other people's background. Don't you agree? The red-haired middle-aged man's tone was not fierce, which made Old Hong feel better. Yi Ling spoke appropriately. He smiled and said, Old Hong, don't be angry. If a consummation blue-robed emperor really harbors ill intentions, given your strength, you can deal with him in a few minutes. Old Hong also felt that he had been somewhat rash. The other party's punch had forced him back a small step, making him feel embarrassed. He, the bona fide Emperor Wu, actually got forced back by a junior. If word of this spread, he would become the laughingstock of Emperor Wu's circle. However, now was clearly not the right time to make a move. Since he had a way out of this embarrassing situation, he might as well go with the flow. Old Hong withdrew his emperor's might and looked coldly at Xiaoqin. On account of young Master Yi and Brother Zhao, I will not lower myself to your level today. I won't lower myself to your level today. You'd better behave yourself. Don't let me get hold of your weakness. Otherwise, you won't even be able to die. Yi Ling laughed and smoothed things over. Then, he said, those who did not pass the test, leave now. If there is an opportunity in the future, we can work together again. With the expulsion order, the cultivators who did not manage to stand up could only leave helplessly. Then, Yi Ling looked at the 7 people who passed the test, especially Xiaoqin. He continued, everyone, please stay here and treat your injuries first. After you are healed, I will explain the details of our cooperation. After saying that, Yi Ling led the 5 Emperor Wu cultivators away with large strides. Before Old Hong left, he turned his head back and glanced at Xiaoqin. His gaze was clearly hostile. This was already the best outcome. Xiaoqin was not willing to fight to the death with the other party at this moment. Xiaoqin was still injured. If he fought now, it would be disadvantageous to him. However, based on Old Hong's expression, this matter clearly could not be settled amicably. Xiaoqin also felt depressed. Unexpectedly, there was someone so petty among Emperor Wu. Xiaoqin was just not willing to expose his strength. He did not intend to force the other party back and embarrass Old Hong. However, if the other party was really unreasonable, Xiaoqin would not fear him. If Xiaoqin did not make a move against him now, he would be more confident after Old Hong recovered from his injuries. Xiaoqin stopped thinking and tossed a P-quality king-grade medicinal pill for treating injuries into his mouth. Then, he sat down cross-legged and started to treat his injuries. As for the sage pill in the Thunder King's inheritance, Xiaoqin did not use it. He only had 3 sage-grade medicinal pills for treating injuries. Every time he used one, there would be one less. It was not time to use them yet. The people in the pavilion were all anxiously treating their injuries. The place was silent as time slowly passed. After half a day, Xiaoqin opened his eyes. His injuries were already mostly healed. All that was left was a period of time, and his body would recover on its own. This time, Xiaoqin was indeed severely injured. Given his half-step golden body cultivation, he had to spend a king-grade medicinal pill and half a day to recover. Xiao Chen looked around and saw that the other 6 half-step Emperor Wu cultivators were still treating their injuries and had not woken up yet. Since Xiao Chen had nothing to do, he started to simulate the fight with Old Hong in his mind. 20 dragon force was equivalent to 100 million kilograms of force. However, it still paled in comparison to the 10 strands of primordial energy. Xiao Chen estimated that he would need at least 100 dragon force to be able to face the other party head-on without suffering a loss. With just a casual palm strike, the other party was as steady as a mountain. His usage of primordial energy was much more proficient than the others. Furthermore, the 10 strands of primordial energy were clearly purer and more condensed than Xiao Chen's. Xiao Chen could only say that he was lucky to be able to endure it. Now that he thought about it, it was still too risky. Just as Xiao Chen was simulating the fight, the other 6 half-step Emperor Wu cultivators woke up one after another. When they looked at Xiao Chen, a strange light flashed in their eyes. As if they had a tacit understanding, 5 of them stood up at the same time and avoided Xiao Chen like the plague. Only the middle-aged man with the flame scar on his face did not avoid them. Instead, he stood up and walked over to Xiao Chen. As for the actions of those 5 people, Xiao Chen understood after thinking for a while. He had offended Old Hong. He had offended Old Hong and provoked the murderous intent of one of the Emperor Wu cultivators. These people were afraid of getting involved with Xiao Chen and incurring Old Hong's wrath on them. Xiao Chen understood what these people were thinking and did not mind. However, he did not understand the intentions of the middle-aged man walking over. "You can sit here. Let me introduce myself. I am Wang Yuzhu, a supreme elder of a rank 8 sect in the Storm Sea," the middle-aged man said as if he was familiar with Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen made an inviting gesture and said, "Naturally, you can. However, you have to tell me why the others avoided me like the plague. Why are you not afraid at all, coming over?" Wang Yuzhu smiled helplessly. However, the scar on his face made this smile look rather unsightly. Could it be that by staying further away from you, we are no longer ants to their Emperor Wu? This question stunned Xiao Chen. These words were simple and incisive. However, some people could not understand them. "I am Yi Chen. Of course, this is just an alias. Have a seat." Surprise flashed in Wang Yuzhu's eyes. This masked youth was truly unfathomable. He was not as simple as a consummation blue-robed emperor. The two sat down and chatted casually. Then, the topic naturally turned to the exploration of the distant sea dragon grave. "Speaking of which, little brother Yi Chen, you are already a consummation blue-robed emperor at such a young age. Advancing to martial emperor in the future is just around the corner. Why are you taking the risk to enter the distant sea dragon grave like us? Furthermore, you are going in with a group of Emperor Wu who are clearly weaker than you." Xiao Chen thought for a while before replying, "When my clan's ancestors were at their peak, every clan head would make a trip to the distant sea dragon grave. I want to know the reason. Of course, I do not hold much hope this time. I am just scouting the way so that I can find some useful information when I act alone in the future." As for why he went with this group of Emperor Wu, Xiao Chen did not say. Even if he did, Wang Yuzhu would not believe him. Xiao Chen probably had a trump card to protect himself from this group of Emperor Wu. "Tell me about you. Why did you enter the distant sea dragon grave despite knowing that this group of Emperor Wu would use you as a pawn?" Wang Yuzhu revealed a sorrowful expression. He replied in a somewhat sullen voice, "Of course, it is to advance to martial emperor." Advance to martial emperor? Xiao Chen felt somewhat suspicious. The half-step emperor Wu already cleared the great tribulation of wind and fire once. Furthermore, he failed it. Could it be that he could undergo it again? Wang Yuzhu answered Xiao Chen's doubts. He explained, "Of course, he can undergo it again. It is just that no one dares to try. After failing the great tribulation of wind and fire and luckily surviving, there will always be lingering hidden injuries in his body. If the hidden injuries are not treated, there is no way to survive the tribulation again. However, it is not impossible to treat such hidden injuries. Some of the divine herbs from the ancient era can treat the hidden injuries, giving the half-step Emperor Wu another chance to undergo the great tribulation of wind and fire again. Xiao Qin now understood. It turned out that there was such a principle. This was the first time he heard of it. This kind of divine herb that can treat hidden injuries should be very rare. Wang Yuzhu smiled bitterly and said, "It is not just rare. Whether it is extinct or not is a mystery. I have not heard of such a divine herb appearing in the world for several thousand years already." When Xiao Qin heard this under the mask, he felt extremely shocked in his heart. Xiao Qin is too stubborn. For the sake of a hope that he did not know existed, he put down his dignity and accompanied a group of aloof Emperor Wu, risking his life to enter a great forbidden land. Wang Yuzhu knew what Xiao Qin was thinking. A fiery light appeared in his eyes as he said, "You do not understand how the half-step Emperor Wu feels. He is clearly only half a step away, but he cannot advance to martial emperor. While he is revered by the world, before the true Emperor Wu, he is an ant-like existence, without any dignity at all. He has clearly touched that door, but he is unable to push it open. No one has a stronger desire to become an emperor than us half-step Emperor Wu." Seeing the sorrowful and fervent expression in Wang Yuzhu's eyes, Xiao Qin was slightly stunned under the mask. The scene of Wang Yuzhu kneeling on one knee after receiving a palm strike from Old Hong appeared in Xiao Qin's mind. Wang Yuzhu wobbled, but he gritted his teeth and stood up. Chapter 1234. Scenes of many half-step Emperor Wu kneeling on one knee, bitterly persevering flashed in Xiao Qin's mind. In contrast, there was a group of martial emperors watching coldly from the sidelines like they were inspecting the goods with expressionless expressions. Xiao Qin thought about his own emperor's road. It was actually very similar to this group of half-step Emperor Wus. To Xiao Qin, advancing to martial emperor in 5 years was also an unknown hope. Since ancient times, no one had ever used 5 years to advance from blue-robed emperor to Emperor Wu. What did they rely on? It was persistence. Enduring the cold gazes of thousands of people, never wavering, believing, and persevering. After a long time, Xiao Qin returned to reality from his wandering thoughts. He sighed and said, "Who says I don't understand?" Footsteps resounded. The dragon slayer Yi Ling led the 5 Emperor Wus to the pavilion once more. Xiao Qin and Wang Yuzhu stopped talking. Then, they walked over together with the other half-step Emperor Wus. Yi Ling said, "Let's make things clear first. This time, we are in charge of this operation. All the treasures along the way, unless it is a divine medicine to treat the hidden injuries of the great tribulation of wind and fire, will be distributed by us first. If there is something that Senior Emperor Wu and the others do not fancy, the 7 of you can distribute it among yourselves. Do you have any objections? If you have any objections, you can voice them. The seniors and I will not make things difficult for everyone." Wang Yuzhu and the other half-step Emperor Wu shook their heads to indicate that they had no objections. Before they came, they had already guessed that this would be the result and were not surprised. Furthermore, they would not dare to snatch something that a martial emperor had his eyes on even if they had the guts. Xiao Qin hesitated for a while, not in a rush to speak. Yi Ling smiled faintly, appearing very interested in this mysterious masked youth. He asked, "What's wrong? Do you have any objections?" Xiao Qin nodded to indicate that he did. The other Emperor Wu's expression changed. Elder Hong even shouted coldly, "If you have something to say, then get lost. We don't need you." The red-haired Emperor Wu seemed to value Xiao Qian's strength very much. He waved his hand to stop Senior Hong and said, "Let him finish first. If you have any objections, as long as it's not too much, I can satisfy them." Xiao Qin said, "If it's a treasure that I find first, I have the priority to obtain it. As for the others, I have no opinion." The red-haired Emperor Wu exchanged glances with Yi Ling and communicated via voice projection. After a while, he communicated with the other Emperor Wus. "This request isn't too much. He discovered the treasure first, so we'll just give it to him. Besides, I don't believe that his eyesight is better than ours." Yes, even if he has the ability to get the treasure, he won't be able to get out alive. If there really is a priceless treasure, it will be ours. Seeing that everyone else said so, Old Hong kept quiet, which was a tacit agreement. After discussing for a while, Yi Ling said, "All right, we agree to your request. Does anyone else have any objections?" The other half-step Emperor Wus had not expected these Emperor Wus to really agree to Xiao Chen's request. They could not help feeling some regret. However, since they already said it, they could not go back on their word. "All right, I'll talk about something else. Our cooperation is mutually beneficial. No one will suffer a loss. During the operation, we have the authority to let you scout the way. You have to obey all our orders. Once you go back on your word, you will have to bear the consequences. It is still not too late to give up now. Otherwise, once you enter the distant sea dragon grave, you will not have the chance to regret it even if you want to." Yi Ling said indifferently, his voice somewhat cold. The 6 half-step Emperor Wus and Xiao Chen's did not choose to give up. If they regretted it, they would not have come in the first place. Following that, Yi Ling started to explain the information about the distant sea dragon grave, as well as some things to take note of. As for the purpose of this trip, Yi Ling did not tell Xiao Chen and the others. He probably did not intend to tell them in advance. Xiao Chen did not mind too much. His purpose was just to go and take a look. He did not have any special goals. If anything went wrong, he could use the cycle banner to charge out at any time. However, it seemed like Xiao Chen had another purpose now. He wanted to see what kind of trump card allowed Yi Ling to obtain the title of Dragon Slayer and gain the qualifications to speak on equal terms with the group of Emperor Wus. The Treasure Master's identity was already mysterious enough in the first place. Now, this Yi Ling happened to appear in the distant sea dragon grave, which had a close connection to the Dragon's Gate. Could all this be as simple as a coincidence? From the first time Xiao Chen saw Yi Ling, he felt a deep fear. If he did not figure out the reason for this feeling, there would always be a shadow in his heart. When the morning sun rose, Yi Ling and the red-clad Emperor Wu discussed for a while and decided to depart immediately. Xiao Chen could tell that this trip was mainly led by Yi Ling and that red-haired Emperor Wu. The other 4 Emperor Wus did not have much decision-making authority. As for Xiao Chen and Xiao Chen, they did not have any decision-making authority. They were just cannon fodder here to scout. If they were lucky and came out alive, regardless of whether they found the divine medicine or not, they would gain a great harvest. If they were unlucky, losing an arm or a leg would be a small matter. They might even lose their lives. Yi Ling took out his golden war chariot and carried the group of people to the sea region where the distant sea dragon grave was. Xiao Chen casually sized up the war chariot. In terms of speed, this war chariot was not much faster than the Flood Dragon war chariot. However, in terms of combat prowess, his Flood Dragon war chariot was not on the same level. The decorations and sculptures around the golden war chariot were not done casually. They were just there for the sake of aesthetics. They all had a deep meaning. With a thought, Yi Ling could immediately activate a great killing formation. There were also many hidden formations that Xiao Chen could not see through. This war chariot was probably the reason why Yi Ling dared to barge into the Dragon Grave Sea alone. The golden war chariot flew for most of the day in the clouds before slowly descending. A vast sea region covered in white fog appeared before everyone's eyes. The fog was hazy, making it impossible to see clearly. What was in there was mysterious and unfathomable. This was the distant sea dragon grave where the dragon kings were buried. Who knew what kind of dangers and temptations this great forbidden land had? Young Master Yi, I heard that you went to the depths of the distant sea dragon grave in the past and came out unscathed. This time, the pressure on us should be much lower, right? A hemp-robed old man among the half-step Emperor Wu said respectfully. Yi Ling glanced at this hemp-robed old man and said indifferently, "Don't think it's that simple. If I were as divine as the rumors say, I would not have invited seniors to come with me. Furthermore, the place I am going this time has nothing to do with the previous one. Everything has to start over." Whoosh! Right after Yi Ling spoke, he put away the golden war chariot. Then, he looked at the sun in the sky. After getting his bearings, he led the group into the fog. Only when he was in the fog did Xiao Chen realize that he was standing on land and not the sea as he had imagined. Amidst the thick fog, Zhang Xian couldn't sense his direction at all. His visibility was limited to 200 meters, and beyond that, he couldn't see anything. Xiao Chen was no exception. However, the instant he landed, a strange feeling surged in his heart. There seemed to be something in the depths of the distant sea dragon tomb calling out to him. Ever since it became a nascent soul, the blue dragon martial spirit, which had been in a deep slumber, suddenly opened its eyes in the dantian. It seemed to be extremely excited and wanted to let out a roar. The instant the blue dragon martial spirit opened its eyes, the leader, Yi Ling, suddenly stopped. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He felt an extremely dangerous aura. He forcefully controlled his blue dragon martial spirit and closed his eyes. Then, he circulated the origin returning technique to the extreme, finally concealing the existence of the blue dragon martial soul. Yi Ling turned his head back to glance, feeling somewhat suspicious. After a while, he said slowly, "Be careful. I just sensed the aura of the dragon race." However, it quickly vanished. "We are already being watched. It is likely to be a bone dragon. Be careful. That can't be. We just entered the distant sea dragon tomb. We are not even in the periphery, and there is already danger," a half-step Emperor Wu exclaimed in shock. The other half-step Emperor Wu felt confused as well. This was extremely abnormal. Normally, as long as one did not enter the periphery, there would not be any danger. Xiao Chen heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Yi Ling had not discovered him. Then, he started to pay more attention. This Yi Ling definitely had some trump card that countered the dragon race. I have to figure it out. At the same time, Xiao Chen thought to himself, I came to the right place. This distant sea dragon tomb does indeed have a strong connection to the dragon's gate and me. You, go ahead and scout the way. Just follow the directions that young Master Yi gives you. Suddenly, Old Hong said, wanting to send Xiao Chen to the very front. Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he smiled coldly to himself. This old fellow is really petty. The moment he heard that there was danger, he immediately sent me to the very front. However, it did not matter, as Xiao Chen knew that there was no danger at all. Earlier, it was just his blue dragon martial spirit that attracted Yi Ling's attention. Yi Ling, who was leading the way, thought for a while and agreed with Old Hong's point of view. I'll tell you where to go. Don't go astray. There is the breath of the dragon race in this fog. It can confuse one's sense of direction. If you go astray, even a half-step Emperor Wu would find it difficult to come out. Seeing Xiao Chen walk forward, the other half-step Emperor Wu all revealed expressions of sympathy. This was the result of offending Emperor Wu. If there was any danger, he would use you to scout the way first, using some tricks to kill you. I'll go with you, Wang Yuzhu said. Displeasure flashed in Old Hong's eyes. He retorted coldly, what are you trying to show off for? Did I say you could go in front? Just stay here obediently. Once we reach the distant sea dragon grave, you will not be able to make decisions for yourselves. Old Hong's words made clear Old Hong's attitude. He wanted to target Xiao Chen. There's no need. I can go alone. Xiao Chen felt confident in his heart. He rejected Wang Yuzhu's kind intentions and asked Yi Ling for directions. Then, he headed straight ahead. Pu Ci. However, not long after Xiao Chen took more than 10 steps, the ground under his feet suddenly cracked. Before he could react, a shockwave rushed out of the ground and knocked him into the air. A huge dragon claw extended from the ground, clawing at Xiao Chen in the air. From a distance, Xiao Chen looked extremely insignificant before that huge dragon claw. There was really danger. Caught off guard, Xiao Chen was knocked into the air. When he saw the tough dragon claw more than 10 times larger than him flying at him, he felt like crying. It turned out that what Yi Ling sensed was not the blue dragon martial spirit in his body. Chapter 1235. This happened very suddenly. Furthermore, Xiaoqin was somewhat careless. The dragon claw that came out of the ground was simply too fast. Pu Ci. The dragon claw grabbed Xiaoqin and held him firmly like an eagle grabbing a chick, holding Xiaoqin in its palm. It felt like 3 mountains were pressing down on Xiaoqin. That feeling was extremely unbearable. His bones creaked from the pressure, and even breathing was somewhat difficult. Xiaoqin's first reaction was to use his primordial energy to explode the dragon claw. However, when he thought about how many eyes were watching, he hesitated. It was this moment of hesitation that brought him even greater danger. Amid loud rumbling sounds, the ground split open, and a huge bone dragon flew out. The dragon tail was like a barb as it quickly stabbed at Xiaoqin. The first reaction of Yi Ling and the others was to quickly retreat, not to save Xiaoqin. This was human nature. When faced with sudden danger, one had to figure out the situation before making a move. Only then could one guarantee their own safety. This was also why Emperor Wu wanted to recruit half-step Emperor Wu, to use them as cannon fodder. Xiaoqin glanced over and happened to see Old Hong smiling coldly, looking at him with some disdain. "Old fellow, I will definitely settle this score with you." Xiaoqin cursed in his heart. The most important thing now was to deal with this dragon tail flying over. If it pierced through his heart, even if he did not die, he would be crippled. Xiaoqin roared ferociously and struggled with all his might. At the crucial moment, he managed to free his right arm. Then, without thinking, he sent out a palm strike to block. The dragon tail was like a spear, piercing through Xiaoqin's palm. Blood spurted out, and Xiaoqin cried out in pain. However, Xiaoqin managed to block this fatal strike. The dragon tail quickly lashed out, preparing for a second strike. After Xiaoqin freed his arm, his body became much more mobile. Then, he used his palm as a saber and chopped heavily on a dragon claw. Kacha! Even though Xiaoqin did not use his saber soul, he did not manage to break this dragon bone. Fortunately, this chop of the saber successfully loosened the strength of the 3 claws. Struggling with all his might, Xiaoqin took the opportunity to escape from the dragon claw. The second attack from the dragon tail missed. When Xiaoqin landed, he slapped the ground with his left hand. Using the technique of the thunder dragon steps, he drew a huge arc and flew to the back of the group. Old Hong thought in his heart, that kid is really lucky to not have died. Fortunately, it's just a lone 3-clawed bone dragon. It's not too dangerous. Elder Hong, do it. Don't waste any more time here. Yi Ling and the red-haired Emperor Wu looked at their surroundings and quickly came to a conclusion. Next, Senior Hong's figure flashed as he pulled out a sword and charged forward to fight the bone dragon. It was clear that Senior Hong had not brought out his true abilities, only using less than 40% of his strength. However, he still held the upper hand. As Senior Hong swung his sword, the might of his sword's soul reached 70%. Every time he swung his sword, a crack appeared on the bone dragon's body. After 100 moves, the sword chi howled, and the bone dragon shattered into fragments. The fragments fell to the ground and seeped into the ground. However, Senior Hong was not injured at all. Xiaoqin watched carefully, not missing a single detail. Xiaoqin believed that he could defeat this 3-clawed bone dragon. However, if he did not use the cycle banner and only used 40% of his strength, he would not be able to kill this bone dragon. Furthermore, this Senior Hong was not injured at all. It had to be said that although the other party's character was not good, Emperor Wu's first heaven layer's strength was not an exaggeration. After Senior Hong sheathed his sword and returned, he looked at Xiaoqin, whose palm was covered in blood, and said coldly, "Continue scouting. You did pretty well earlier." Xiaoqin raged in his heart. "This old fellow will not rest until he kills me." Yi Ling stopped Xiaoqin and said, "Send someone else. He is injured. Let him rest for a while." Senior Hong nodded. Then, he shifted his gaze. The other 6 half-step Emperor Wus felt somewhat nervous. The earlier scene of Xiao Qin dying and Emperor Wu watching coldly from the sidelines had frightened them. These Emperor Wus did not treat them as companions at all. Without knowing the risk, even if the bone dragon killed them, they would not help. If it were not for Xiao Chen but them, they would not have escaped so easily. In that case, you do it. Weren't you trying to show off earlier? Now, I'll give you a chance to show off, Senior Hong said with a cold smile as he looked at Wang Yuzhu. The other half-step Emperor Wus rejoiced. Fortunately, they had not gotten too close to Xiao Chen. Otherwise, they would be the unlucky ones. Xiao Chen, this old man is too hateful. He is just a first heaven layer cultivator. In Emperor Wu's circle, he is at the bottom. Furthermore, he is so petty. How disgusting. Ao Jiao said angrily from the immortal spirit ring. Don't get anxious. Right now, I still need to rely on them to bring me into the depths of the distant sea dragon grave. I feel that this place definitely has something to do with me. Now is not the time to make a move. Wait until I figure him out first. When I find an opportunity, I will definitely make him pay the price. Xiao Chen thought to himself as he bandaged the wound on his palm. How are your injuries? It is a little problematic. That bone dragon's body has a very dense death qi. It will not recover quickly. However, there is no need to worry. It will be fine after some time. Help me remember the path Yi Ling took. When we return, we will not have to rely on them. Yes, don't worry. I will remember every step he takes. Speaking of which, it was strange. Even that group of Emperor Wus found this fog difficult to deal with. However, Yi Ling did not face any restrictions in there. Following this, Wang Yuzhu took the lead while Yi Ling gave pointers from behind. At first, it was rather peaceful. However, after entering the depths of the fog, the danger increased. Occasionally, many unpredictable dangers appeared. 3-clawed bone dragons started appearing in groups. Not long after, Wang Yuzhu got injured and had to switch out people to take his place. None of the 5 half-step Emperor Wus, who were secretly rejoicing, could avoid this. They took turns taking the lead. Several times, they were in extreme danger, nearly losing their lives. After walking for 4 hours, the group finally exited the fog. A desolate land filled with lava and volcanoes appeared before them. The 6 half-step Emperor Wus were all injured. As for that group of Emperor Wus, they were all brimming with health and vigor. They were not injured at all, not even a speck of dust on them. The value of cannon fodder was clear in this place. If not for this group of half-step Emperor Wus, no matter how strong Emperor Wu was, he would be somewhat fatigued and unable to maintain his peak state when passing through this fog. Yi Chen, this operation is somewhat strange. I do know some things about the distant sea dragon grave. The fog is not even in the periphery. There should not be so many dangers. This is too strange. Wang Yuzhu sent a voice projection to Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. Could it be because of him? From the moment they entered the fog, the blue dragon martial spirit, which had already become a Yuanying, had been incredibly excited, wanting to roar out. Even so, Xiao Chen firmly suppressed it. Could there be some connection between the two? This time, we are on the same boat. Even if we want to run, we cannot. If you have a trump card, you should leave early, Wang Yuzhu continued, his tone filled with helplessness. Xiao Chen thanked Wang Yuzhu and kept an eye on him. However, it was not the time to leave yet. On the other side, the red-haired Emperor Wu looked at the dark clouds and lava spreading in front. He asked Yi Ling, "Is it here?" An ancient dragon-shaped key appeared in Yi Ling's palm. It was completely red, looking like it was made of fire. It looked very strange. Yi Ling held the key and sensed it. Then, he nodded and said, "It is indeed here. However, this desolate plain of fire will not be easy to cross. It is getting dark. Let's rest for the night first." Those half-step Emperor Wu's also need time to recuperate. Joy flashed in the red-haired Emperor Wu's eyes as he got the other Emperor Wu's to make arrangements. Soon, Emperor Wu started to work together to carve a formation. Then, a simple camp appeared. Old Hong arranged a place for the half-step Emperor Wu to rest and some crucial points of the formation. When it was Xiao Chen's turn, he said, "Go outside the formation. Tonight, you will stand guard and help us keep watch. Remember to stay far away. If there are any accidents, you can inform us in advance." Under the mask, Xiao Chen's expression changed. This desolate plain of fire was extremely strange. Who knew what kind of danger would occur at night? Furthermore, there was a foggy land behind. Who knew if ferocious beasts would appear? "What's wrong? You want to disobey orders?" Old Hong asked coldly. A murderous intent flashed in Xiao Chen's heart. He did not say anything. Instead, he stood up and walked out of the formation. Although the formation that Emperor Wu personally laid down was rushed and looked simple, its defense was not compromised at all. After Xiao Chen walked out of the defensive formation, the 8 nodes of the formation immediately lit up with light. Then, they connected to each other and formed a ring of light encasing the entire camp. Upon careful observation, one would discover that the formation was vaguely connected to space, involving many of the mysteries of the state of space. "Old Hong, this is not appropriate, right? There are too many unknown dangers in this place. Isn't it too much to toss a half-step Emperor Wu outside the profound underworld formation?" Yi Ling said with a frown as he looked at Xiao Chen's back. Old Hong smiled and said, "Young Master Yi, it is precisely because there are too many dangers that we need someone to stand guard at night. It is already late at night. We can't possibly have to stand guard by ourselves, right? Furthermore, I can tell that this fellow is very skilled at movement techniques. Letting him stand guard at night is the best choice." The other Emperor Wu did not feel much about it. It was just a consummation blue-robed emperor. He was not related to them in any way. Whether he lived or died did not matter. When Yi Ling saw the situation, he did not say anything more. A consummation blue-robed emperor was indeed nothing. However, Yi Ling kept feeling that this mysterious masked youth's aura was somewhat familiar. However, he could not recall where he had seen it before. A cold murderous intent flashed in Old Hong's eyes. He thought to himself, "An insignificant consummation blue-robed emperor dares to fight with me? I can easily toy with you to death." Outside the formation, Xiao Chen continued walking for more than 25 kilometers before he stopped. Boiling lava flowed under his feet, occasionally spewing out flames. Volcanoes of various heights were in the distance. Those volcanoes had never stopped erupting, and there would always be lava shooting up into the sky from the mouth of the mountain. Chapter 1236. As a result, the sky was always overcast. All sorts of loud sounds resounded in the surroundings, sounding like thunder. Although it was clearly very chaotic, Xiao Chen strangely felt a sense of tranquility. There was no sign of life at all. The scene before him was like a silent movie. The distant sea dragon grave. I really did not expect the fog to be like this. Xiao Chen withdrew his gaze and muttered to himself. Don't overthink. This is just the tip of the iceberg of the distant sea dragon grave. You have just officially stepped into the periphery. After passing through the entire desolate plain of fire, you should barely be in the depths. Ao Jiao said from the immortal spirit ring. As Xiao Chen looked at the boundless desolate plain of fire, he was flabbergasted. The size of this distant sea dragon grave was truly startlingly huge. What do you think Yi Ling's group is doing here? I don't think they are just here to scout around. As far as Xiao Chen could see, there were no signs of movement at all. As he stood guard, he felt somewhat bored. Furthermore, he could not cultivate. So, he could only chat with Ao Jiao. There are too few clues. I can't guess. Furthermore, I have never been to the distant sea dragon grave before. I know too little. In any case, you just have to be careful. I hope so. After chatting for a while, Xiaochen remembered that he had not opened the door of time and space to absorb primordial energy yet. So, he got Ao Jiao to help him keep an eye on it. Ever since he experienced the might of primordial energy and the extremely difficult method to obtain it, Xiaochen knew that this was his only chance to open the door of time and space every day. He cherished it extremely and did not dare to waste it. With a thought, the resplendent heart of an emperor spun. Then, under a mysterious pull, the door of time and space appeared above Xiaochen's head once more. With a thought, the resplendent heart of an emperor spun. Under the mysterious pull, the door of time and space appeared above Xiaochen's head once more. Drops of pure white primordial energy flowed out. It was like Xiaochen was bathed in a white light, appearing extremely holy. Strong energy spread throughout his body, making him feel very satisfied. He really wanted to go to the world behind the door and see what kind of existence that hazy and boundless world was. Unfortunately, that was impossible. Even if one was as powerful as a supreme being, reaching the peak of the martial path, they still couldn't enter that world. The so-called gate of time and space above his head was in between reality and illusion. It was not a real gate at all. Strictly speaking, this was just an image projected by the heart of an emperor after it established a connection with that world. If you walked in through the door and came out, you would find that you were still in this world, just an illusion. Even if one really entered and was safe and sound, the many Emperor Wu of the Kunlun realm guessed that it was a pure energy space. There was no order to it, and it would immediately turn into primordial energy. Of course, whether it was true or not, there was still no conclusion. Primordial energy was just a name that Emperor Wu of the Kunlun realm had given it. That world was chaotic was also a guess. Right now, Xiaochen was not thinking about anything else. He only wanted to absorb this energy to strengthen himself, to increase his chances of clearing his great tribulation of wind and fire. When the gate of time and space slowly closed, Xiaochen reluctantly opened his eyes. He sighed, it is really not easy to obtain this primordial energy. Looking around, as far as his eyes could see, nothing had changed. Use your heavenly eye to take a look. I definitely can't see this vast plain of desolate fire clearly with the naked eye. Xiaochen circulated the Paradise Secret Cannon, and the vertical purple eye on his forehead opened. Immediately, his field of vision widened by 100 times, 1,000 times. Xiaochen saw many flaming earth dragons roaming the desolate plain. There were also strange flaming birds flying in the air. With one glance, it was startling. These ferocious beasts were definitely not weak. Aside from the many ferocious beasts, Xiaochen also made some unexpected discoveries. There are so many divine materials. This desolate land of fire is actually filled with treasures. Xiaochen's heavenly eye noticed several natural ores that were divine materials hidden in the lava with his extremely sharp heavenly eye. Suddenly, Xiaochen's gaze paused. He saw a strange gem flickering with golden light in the pool of lava. However, in the next moment, the lava surged over and covered up the gem. It was like it had sunk into the pool and could no longer be seen. The heavenly eye closed, and Xiaochen's emotions fluctuated somewhat. He muttered, Ao Jiao, I think I saw a heptagold origin. Really? Ao Jiao exclaimed excitedly, losing her composure, which she rarely did. For the lunar shadow saber to advance to a divine weapon and enter the divine weapon ranking, aside from needing vast amounts of divine materials, heptagold origin was something that the lunar shadow saber needed. Such a treasure that could only be found and not sought suddenly appeared before her. How could Ao Jiao not be excited? Xiaochen smiled and said, don't get too excited. I did not see it clearly either. It was just a flash. I don't know if it was a heptagold origin or not. Then what are we waiting for? Let's quickly go and take a look. Xiaochen smiled helplessly. I want to as well. However, based on the time outside, one night has already passed. I have to rush back. Furthermore, there are many dangers along the way to the lava pool from here. It would be very difficult for me to cross safely alone. If it were not for the heptagold origin, I would have suffered a great loss. Ao Jiao whispered, sorry, I was too excited. It's fine. If we want to cross this desolate plain of fire, that is the only way. When the time comes, I will scoop it up and take a look. Remembering the location of the suspected heptagold origin, Xiaochen quickly rushed back. Soon, he appeared in front of the camp. The result was unexpected. The camp's defensive formations were already completely destroyed. Aside from that red-haired, middle-aged man, Senior Hong and the other Emperor Wu were all slightly injured and mentally fatigued. When Xiaochen looked around, he saw a pile of bone dragon fragments on the ground. He took a look and saw an incomplete dragon claw with 4 claws. Xiaochen instantly understood what happened. Last night, the desolate plain of fire was calm and peaceful, nothing had happened. On the contrary, another group of bone dragons charged out from the foggy area. These were 4-clawed ones. When Senior Hong saw the perfectly fine Xiaochen, he immediately flared up. He scolded, brat, how could you keep watch all night? More than 100 4-clawed bone dragons charged out, and you did not even give me a warning. Where did you run off to? Under the mask, Xiaochen did not show any fear when he saw Senior Hong's anxious expression. He said indifferently, is that so? I followed your instructions and went very far. Last night was calm and peaceful, nothing happened. How could I have warned you? Senior Hong felt stifled. When he thought about it, he was indeed the one who told Xiaochen to go further. However, when he heard Xiaochen's casual tone, he could not suppress his anger. Originally, Senior Hong wanted to trick Xiaochen, to make Xiaochen suffer in the desolate plain of fire. Who could have imagined that Xiaochen would swagger back unscathed? On the contrary, he was the one who ended up in a sorry state and even suffered some minor injuries. The camp was attacked. No matter how you quibble, you have to take responsibility for this matter. Feeling somewhat flustered and exasperated, Senior Hong started to act like a scoundrel. Xiaochen smiled coldly and said, can you be any more shameless? I have never seen such a petty Emperor Wu before. Even the primes I have seen would not speak to me like this. Who do you think you are? What did you say? Senior Hong demanded fiercely as he stepped forward in rage. Xiaochen did not fear Senior Hong at all. He stepped forward as well and said directly, I said that you are shameless. What's wrong? Are you deaf? Did you not hear me clearly? In that case, I will say it loudly once more. You, old fellow, are shameless. Didn't I just force you back by a small step despite being severely injured? Is there a need to be so petty? It is just a small matter, yet you keep targeting me. The moment Xiaochen said this, those half-step Emperor Wu immediately paled in fright. This Xiaochen was really bold. To dare to go against Emperor Wu, what medicine did he take to be so angry? It was not that Xiaochen was angry. It was that he had had enough. He was already upset that Xiaochen had tossed him out of the camp in the middle of the night. Xiaochen returned to the camp perfectly fine. Despite having done nothing wrong, Xiaochen continued to criticize him. Although Xiaochen had a good temper, it was not to this extent. You are seeking death. Try attacking if you dare. Don't force me into a corner. You are just a first heaven Emperor Wu. I don't believe that you can squish me to death so easily. Facing Senior Hong's overwhelming Emperor's might, Xiaochen did not show any signs of backing down under the mask. He endured the layers of Emperor's might and took another step forward. Then, he glared at the other party with a sharp gaze. Under the pressure of this gaze, Senior Hong saw the sharpness of a cultivator. Xiaochen would rather break than bend. His aura weakened for some reason. Senior Hong could not help but think quickly. This brat definitely has some trump cards since he dared to enter the distant sea dragon grave. If I kill a consummation blue-robed emperor like him, he will fight me to the death. There will be no benefits at all. Who knows, I might even get injured. That is not worth it. If Xiaochen had some value, Senior Hong might make a move. However, there was no benefit at all. Xiaochen was another thorn in Senior Hong's side. This made it hard for Senior Hong to make up his mind. Never mind, never mind. We are all on the same side. There is no need to fight with each other. If we start fighting now, how are we going to proceed in the future? Emperor Wu said quickly when he saw that Senior Hong needed a way out of this embarrassing situation. At this moment, the red-haired Emperor Wu also said, Senior Hong, everyone is responsible for this. No one expected a group of bone dragons to appear in the foggy land. Right. Senior Hong, don't get angry at the juniors. Youths all have their own tempers. Seeing Xiao Chen's unyielding sharpness, Senior Hong, who was already thinking of retreating, took advantage of the situation. He flung his sleeves and said, on account of the few of us, I will not lower myself to your level. Xiao Chen smiled coldly in his heart. He could not be bothered with Senior Hong, so he walked to the side. Ao Jiao had already memorized the way to enter and exit the foggy land. By relying on the cycle banner, he could leave this place at any time. There was no need to fear this first heaven Emperor Wu. If people respect me, I will respect them tenfold. After targeting me time and time again, why should I be polite to you? Xiao Chen, you are really bold. Wang Yuzhu smiled faintly as he walked over. Xiao Chen said casually, it is not a matter of being bold. Everyone has their own bottom line. If he were Emperor Wu's third heaven strength, I would endure him ordering me around. However, he is just a first heaven Emperor Wu. To think that he dares to be so arrogant. There is no need to give him any face. Wang Yuzhu smiled bitterly in his heart. Only you dare to say that. No matter which heaven you are, Emperor Wu is Emperor Wu. He is an influential person. To them, he is an undefeatable existence.